Honestly, I'm getting older. It's the same ankle, right, that I snapped and had a nasty surgery on 4 years ago. So, yeah, a couple of hard days of training, and you get a little sore, and then you're going on a fishing trip, and you want to protect it and make sure that things don't get worse.
I'm undefeated in the swag, so I already know what the expectation comes with. I know we're everybody's Super Bowl, so I'm really just I always stay level-headed, stay grounded, because I would never want to be that guy, look back, and not being able to take advantage of the moment that we have right now.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Can you handle 4 hours of Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy? Welcome, everybody. Good morning. How we doing?
How was your iced tea?
Oh, you know what?
Uh-oh.
I just finished it in the car.
Oh, okay.
No.
So
no,
you're keeping it going?
Oh, no.
This is a thing now.
I have more slices of life and simple pleasures that are going to make your summer. Yesterday.
I love how you're saying simple pleasures after the conversation we just had before we came on.
Talk about lemonade, iced tea. Yeah.
I'll get to that because I think that is some of that part of we had a conversation about quirky broadcasters is for air. But I am now all in on the iced tea and the cold iced tea. So I've replaced it with my coffee on the drive-in. And I used to have orange juice on the drive-in, but I didn't like if I didn't drink all the orange juice and I left it and it heats up and then you go out at 11 o'clock to your car and it's bad enough that part of this town smells like a skunk. And I'm seeing more skunks, by the way.
See, same.
Okay.
People are running.
Hey,
Skunks are chasing them.
We got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're going to get to the sports.
My nose is catching all kinds of things right now. I mean, even in here. Well, I hope not.
Did you lose your
it's the reverse effect. I think my
you can smell everything.
Maybe I'm pregnant or something.
All right. Congratulations on the
my
sex.
sense of smell is extremely sensitive right now.
Jimmy, on the rundown, where is that Nick is pregnant? When are we going to talk about that?
Well, I just remember
I believe that might have to go to the top of the list.
Well, that was one of the symptoms, of my wife when she was pregnant. Her sense of smell was super sensitive.
Too?
So maybe, I don't know. I'm super sensitive to smells today.
Did you make 2 people pregnant?
You've had quite the week.
Pretty active.
I don't have the same type of...
Did you get double time off?
Now, that would be the reason to get pregnant right there.
Full question. One of the reasons to get pregnant is you get time off from work.
A lot of it.
There you go.
And a lot of it.
What do you get, 12 weeks?
Yeah, now there's places that now that they throw the data bone now. You get paternity and actual paid paternity.
Work at 24/7. Schaefer got 3 months off.
Yep.
Which I guess would be 12 weeks. Thank you.
That's pretty good.
Okay, there's a lot here. Let me go back to my iced tea.
Yes, please.
So I get up and I drink coffee in the morning, but then on the drive-in, I pour myself a nice cold glass of orange juice. But if I don't finish it and I leave it in the car and then I get in the car and it's warmed up, I left Warner Park yesterday and it was 100 degrees in my car and I'm like,
you tried to drink it?
No.
Okay.
But the smell. So I've replaced it with now the iced tea on the drive-in, and it's just cooling and it's refreshing.
It's very summery.
And it's just, it goes down a little bit better. When you put stuff in your mouth, you want it to feel good at the end.
Well, sure.
And so the iced tea feels better than the orange juice. Okay, with that said, I'll say my other simple pleasure that we need to have more of. I'm on pro iced tea, and you can have an Arnold Palmer, whatever. Let's just iced tea it up.
Yeah.
Okay, we're iced teeing it up.
It's never a bad thing.
But the one thing I did notice this morning, and I'm glad you're onto this, Jimmy, in my neighborhood, and I live in the Exarban Village neighborhood, so there's a lot of trails. And I have noticed that there are more skunks on the trails when I go out for my walk/run.
They're unionizing.
And we have a good crew on the trails because they will alert you, skunk ahead, skunk ahead.
Oh, that's good.
But every morning now for a while, it smells like a skunk has done business overnight in Exarban Village.
Oh.
You smell it and you're like, oh. And then ironically, when I'm driving in about halfway through my drive this morning, still in my neighborhood, I see a little baby skunk waddling its butt across the street. Yeah. And so he went up to one of the light poles that are still wooden and did his business or whatever.
I just hose them down.
So I don't know. I'm not familiar with the skunk community. Like when they have breeding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know either.
Like when they get busy and they start making other skunks.
Sounds like a
But
Greg
it appears
Wagner
that
deal.
it might be this time of the year
Skunk
that
season.
we're having skunk sex. Like the skunks are getting after it.
Some skunky sex.
Like during the skunk sex, do you spray each other?
Maybe you get it out of the way early.
Is that how you get off?
Yeah.
You spray each other?
It's usually how it goes.
Well, I don't know. I got to ask these questions. I'm a curious fella because
so you're saying
the
skunk release is actually the spraying of the...
I don't know how. I mean, I know.
All right, let's get some coffee.
I know how the act works, but it's not like skunks don't do the same stuff. Like you and your wife do.
They follow the beat of a different drummer. Okay. They have to. Look at the life they're living.
But
People try to avoid them.
I'm just curious because my neighborhood every morning smells like skunks have gotten busy. And I don't know if it's like the heat and we're going to be in a major heat wave this weekend that skunks are like, you know what? Time to check in. We are running out of skunks in this area. It's time to let me go. Do they do it? Does another skunk say to the other one, I just skunked you? Yeah. Well, I know that this might be funny, but I got questions.
I understand. I'm just having a tough time.
And I'm talking to Jack Hanna here, and he goes, I don't know.
Because it's,
I think
some people share a cigarette in post-coital bliss. I'm just imagining them like, that was a good one. All of a sudden.
By the way, that is just a movie thing. When have you ever done that? Like shared a cigarette?
I never did.
Typically, you went outside and you were not going to go outside.
I don't smoke.
I had the occasional bar cig when you could do that at a bar, but I never thought, that was good. Let's you got some Camels? Oh. you got some P-Funks?
No, here, Mr. Amateur.
Shout out P-Funks. The Cowboy Killers.
Reds. That would really drive it home.
Yeah.
I don't know. Husker Potato says skunks are big sprayers.
Okay. Okay. Now I got questions here. Like once a skunk sprays, are they done? It's like, the bee when it stings you.
It's over.
That's all it has.
The praying mantis.
You're going to bee heaven. Like, do skunks have like a reserve? Because whatever it is,
right?
Whatever it is, again, in my neighborhood, every morning, it smells like the skunks have just taken over.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can prevent that, but I think it's maybe this time of the year.
AI says skunks use their spray as a defense mechanism to repel predators or unwanted guests when they or their young are threatened and cannot escape. Now, I'm going to go ahead. Don't want you.
In the skunk sex, it's their just say no.
Yeah.
Well, unless they feel threatened.
Okay.
You now have me curious about.
Well, remember
during mating season,
the bunnies are taking over Omaha, so I think the skunks are rising up against the bunnies. Now, we need rivalries.
I'm seeing less cats, more rabbits. We need less cats. We need more dogs. Less cats, more rabbits, more skunks. I don't know if that's good for our society.
Mating season is actually February to March.
Okay.
College basketball
but they are more likely to spray during mating season.
Skunk madness.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just there's a lot of predators that live in my neighborhood.
Could be.
Like Teen Wolf and stuff like that.
Yeah, if it bleeds, you can kill it.
Yeah, there could be a new hangout over there.
Okay.
So that might be going on.
Here we go. Thank you, Husker Potato. Skunks hold enough odorous liquid to spray 5 or 6 times before needing to replenish. Glands take 8 to 10 days to refill. But look at this. Journalism, kids. Credit Wiki. Always cite your sources.
How about this one? During mating season, male skunks use their scent to attract females, while females can use their scent glands to fend off unwanted advances by a male skunk.
It's like humans.
An over-aggressive skunk.
Hey, that's not just with the skunks. It's with life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Us people.
Yeah, there's some commonalities here with the skunk. Maybe we're not so different. There's times I'll go without showering.
I wouldn't be attracted to a woman that had body odor.
No. Oh, no.
But I think if you don't shower and don't use deodorant, you are attracted to each other because you get it. Hey, now I can talk. No, it's true. It's true. I can talk from experience.
Natural scent.
Now, my lone year that they allowed me to live in the dorms in Lincoln, and you remember, I got in a little bit of trouble. Apparently, when you go to the top of Able and you bread cars at the driving by on the street, that's frowned upon.
Wait, bread?
Oh yeah, we went up. I had friends that lived in Able Sandos, and so we climbed up onto the roof of Able.
Yeah,
and you have a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
No bologna.
And you take the bread and you roll it up like a ball,
like a little
Nice.
ball.
and
Oh,
you
okay.
throw it down on the street below.
Nice.
Man,
All of this stuff that I'm
between
saying,
that and bologna and cars,
the statue of limitations is long gone. Oh yeah, I've kind of grown up, but
kind of.
so my lone semester, not a year because I transferred mid-semester from Minnesota. I chose Nyhard because they had a sink in the room, and I thought that was really cool. What I didn't know that only my roommate and myself were from the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do remember that part.
There were very few people that spoke English. Nice. I really liked my floor. I got to know a couple of people, and they spoke enough English.
And this is the roommate that liked to hang out at trains?
Yeah, he liked to go down behind Harper Schramm Smith and jump on trains.
Yeah. And didn't he invite you a few times?
It's amazing that I actually stayed at Nebraska after that semester. Thank God I met my guys that were like just
your dudes.
Just they those were I'll just leave it at that. But there are some cultures where you don't use deodorant.
Yeah.
And so that was a popular thing on our floor.
Oh.
So I've kind of become an expert on this. So if you guys would like to ask questions about that,
I would assume
not that it's me.
I
am petrified to go. I mean, I'll smell my armpits to go like, oh my God, that can't be me.
Yeah. No. Anytime I smell any malodorous in the air,
you assume you're the stinky cleaning class.
I do what I think most of us do. I make sure, first and foremost, before I start casting stones, I make sure it's not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would think that even deodorant for the cultures you speak of would actually be, I don't want to say offensive odor, but it would be an unwanted odor for a lot of those people.
Yeah, from my understanding,
it's like BO's unwanted odor.
Because I was very immature back then, and it was just killing me. I had to ask, and so I was told in a particular culture that you want the natural smell of your body.
You save money on deodorant.
And I'm like, you know what? When I was 6, I did too, because I refused to shower.
Yeah.
And then once you realize it, man, whoo, there's this thing called Pigpen, and you're auditioning for it.
Yeah, and you got a lot of flies circling around you. Yeah.
All right, welcome in, everybody. This is a good start to the show.
It is.
Welcome to talking season in college football. Let me give you the lineup real quickly. She ain't coming on the show now. The lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Sarah Baker Hansen going to stop by at 8.
Supposedly.
Wait till I ask her about raw dogging. Sip, who I will ask about raw dogging as well at 8:30. And then, you know what? What the hell? Brian Edwards. This is going to be a trio of raw dogging today.
Well, how was this holiday weekend down there? So there's probably lots of it.
So that's the lineup brought to you by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. It is talking season. We had multiple personalities again yesterday.
Oh, my God.
I have said this, and okay, just for a moment, everybody just bear with me here. You have through my skunk talk and deodorant. I have said this from the jump because I had some interaction with him way back in the day when I was living in his hometown of Fort Myers. But Deion Sanders spoke yesterday. He's the celebrity coach, but there are times where Prime takes over in a press conference, and then there are times where Deion, who actually says some things that you go, yeah,
I like it.
If you can separate Prime and Deion, there are some things that he says that you go, yeah, I'm with you. We got the full gamut yesterday at Big 12 Media Days. There were times I had no idea what he was talking about, and then there were other times like, yeah, you're speaking the stuff that people are afraid to say, and you're talking as a father, as a coach, or somebody that's kind of new to the game. It was one of those interesting days that, thank you, Coach Prime or Deion, you have given us plenty of fodder to discuss, because he had a hell of a day yesterday in Las Vegas.
And then Lance Leipold follows. And then it's just back to, oh. And I mean, give Lance Leipold credit. He even acknowledged, I don't know if I say
I'm just a football coach.
But he said,
I just win football games.
Did I lose the drawing here with having to follow Deion Sanders? Yeah,
I was fully husked.
You knew you were in for one at the podium when I'm pretty sure they just had their media notes that you get at Big Ten Media Days. Basically, your first batch of media notes for the season, and he's going through amount of freshmen that had played. And I know what he was doing. He was trying to acknowledge certain narratives of the program, but he's just going into that. I mean, he just starts throwing numbers out left and right. And then he's, looking through this page and that page. And then all of a sudden, all right, now let's get to the thing that you want the most. How about questions? I mean, it was just like, it was the whole big gulps. Huh? All right. Well, see you later. And then all of a sudden, all right, we're on the questions. Like, wait a minute. It wasn't the, hey, he talked about your Mark, goes into some coaches, Gus Malzahn and certain other coaches.
He loves Gus Malzahn.
Yes, he does.
Because Gus Malzahn recruited Shedeur. Yeah.
Then goes, all of a sudden just starts rattling off numbers. You're like, what are these numbers he's talking about? And it just goes into that. So then it goes from acknowledging and appreciating certain coaches and the commissioner, then it goes into a recruiting pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was. It was a recruiting pitch.
It's Prime and Deion.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute to the next.
Just going like wrestling each
and
other.
I'd like to sift through. There's some stuff again that he says that about recruiting and rankings and how they can be a little biased. And I'm like, yeah, we've talked about that before. But then, to a recruiting pitch.
Oh, big time.
I call him celebrity. I every time I listen to him, and he is the show in the Big 12. I mean, he's the show on week 2 in Lincoln. He'll walk onto the field and it will draw a response.
Yep.
So Colorado has gotten the return on investment. Whether they win 4 games again this year, win 6, whatever. They've gotten the return on investment. People talking about Colorado. You can say, well, they are. People weren't talking about Colorado. People talk about Colorado. I don't recall ever, and you guys can help me with this. I don't recall in the world of college football a head coach that there is a large amount of people that are just a fan of the head coach, but not the program, will follow the head coach, but have no interest in Colorado football, even though that guy that they follow with passion coaches Colorado. Maybe Barry Switzer. You are a fan of Switzer, but maybe not so much Oklahoma. I don't know if you'd say that about T.O., and I'm thinking about some of the well-known coaches.
Think of Switzer's
back in
personality.
The day.
I see your point there.
It's a weird dynamic that I don't recall seeing in college football. Now, in college basketball, where the coaches seem to be a little bit more of the face, you might get that, but not like in college football where people will follow Deion, but they have no interest in Colorado. Like if you say, "Do you guys know that Colorado was 4-8 last year?" They're like, no, but Deion's a head coach.
Yeah, I think it's actually if anything, it's more the opposite, where you will fully embrace the team. You're a diehard fan of that team, and maybe you agree or disagree with who the coach is at that time, but you will blindly follow because of your allegiance to the team. Very rarely is it, well, I'm not really even following the happenings of the team itself on Saturdays or what the ultimate result is. I just want to hear Deion's content. I just want to hear what he has to say leading up to a game, before, after. The result can be what it is. I don't really care. The guy just entertains me. I think that's exactly what it is. When you can look at the reason you root for a football team is because that is your Saturday entertainment. That is your Saturday passion. And in most occasions, and I know we're a very unique example here. In most occasions, there's probably not as much conversation in a victory about the head coach in every little thing, as opposed to just the team itself, the players who played and made plays. The only time the coach is usually brought up in those circumstances is during a loss, where you want to look at what happened here and what happened there.
That's an interesting question. Like the last time we could say in a win, we talked about what the coach did.
Right.
It's a good point.
So it's completely the opposite side of the spectrum there. And you're right. Yesterday you got a dose of why that is. I said yesterday, and I actually kind of feel foolish for saying this, I said I thought he'd be more businesslike. And I still think he was, as much as Coach Prime and Deion Sanders can be. He didn't stoke any fires with any certain teams. When they asked him about, or the guy from North Dakota, asked him a question about, and he's giving him all kinds of praise. Like, I'm mad at my AD for putting that game on the schedule. So that was the part I did expect when it came to any particular matchups that were going to be brought up. There was going to be no riling anybody up. There was going to be all the respect in the world. And he did play that part too. And I think that was the coach Sanders part of it. That wasn't the coach Prime part of it. This is just the story itself. If they do not perform well, it will continue to run stagnant. It won't change him though. And there's the part that I'll always hold an amount of respect for him. He's never going to change for anybody. He is who he is, whether you like it or not.
Sound like
whether they're winning or losing, he is what he is. Yep. And you either you can deal with that or you don't have to. But it's not. That's why I get exhausted of sort of rolling my eyes or getting annoyed or having, big Deion overreaction, because at the end of the day, that's who he's going to be tomorrow. It's who he's going to be a month from now. It's who he's going to be 3 years from now. So if you've made your case of what either annoys you or what you don't like about it, or on the other side, what you do like about it, what you appreciate about it, that's not changing at all.
So this question about, and I agree with you, the question about rooting for a coach but you care for the program, Frank writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, I could make a case for this. We won't do that around here. He said Scott Frost. Scott Frost was extremely popular at Central Florida because of the success, because of the offense, drew a national following, even though people knew of his Nebraska connection. Mm-hmm. And probably when he went to Nebraska, many of those Scott Frost followers didn't become a Nebraska fan. They were still Scott Frost fans. Look at the national media.
That's a good point.
That's a great email.
The Central Florida one, yeah, for sure.
All right. You can be like Frank. You be okay, Jimmy? Jimmy is amused by something. And after the beginning of the show, I'm afraid to ask.
I'm trying to think of the answer to that. You want the honest answer?
Well, what are you doing over there?
I'm just enjoying life. I'm enjoying another day at work with Skunk Talk. It's delivering.
All of the beginning of the show is starting to come together.
Yep. Yeah.
There were some good conversations.
It was.
Yes.
This is why I got up thankful for another
Are you
day.
okay? Do you need a smoke? What is going on over there?
I mean, more coffee,
Jimmy might need a phone call. And you can make a phone call as well, because we have plenty to talk about, from Deion to Nebraska football. And if you want to play, it's going to cost you. You got to pay. Like as one stripper at a remote I did in Fremont harassed a former voice of the Huskers.
I haven't heard this story.
If you want to play, you got to pay. Yeah, it was Chintzy. He was sitting at the end of the Lariat Club in Fremont. We'd done a remote at a furniture store in Fremont, and he said, "Hey, let's go here." And so Bishop and I went there with
and it
this
wasn't
person.
either one of you guys. Okay,
no, we've never been the main voice of Nebraska athletics.
I think I know
so we went there, and he wasn't pulling out the dollar bills, and the stripper said, "If you want to play, you got to pay."
Probably said it exactly like that.
Cheap
too.
ass. But it now shows you that you want access to your favorite team. You're going to have to pay a little bit.
Hey, who made that call about 3 months ago?
Of doing that?
No. Yeah, believe it was the guy sitting next to me. As soon as I saw that come out, I'm like, are you advising the athletic department?
The NIL practice, $25.
Mm-hmm.
Great idea. Some people don't think it's a great idea. We're gonna dive into that in the next segment, which was announced yesterday. Tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. I'm going to pause on how many people I think there will be, because I've been told there's a lot of stuff going on that night.
Okay.
So, but this is Nebraska.
Yep.
This is something different.
It's rare.
So we could be 40 to 50,000.
I believe it.
Maybe. Tickets go on sale for that at 10 a.m. We're going to talk about that, what was announced yesterday by the athletic department, coming up in the next segment. You can always talk about anything. You got skunk knowledge?
Mm-hmm. We want to learn.
That's what we're here to do. We're going to learn from you today.
Till we get a zoo sponsorship.
Yeah. Wait till we talk about putting stuff in your pants. Then we're going to need everybody involved in this.
Especially
402-95. No, never. Why would you do that?
I wouldn't.
I'd be petrified to get sprayed by a skunk.
Oh,
I'd be
yeah.
done.
If I saw one, even at the door right there, I would try to get up on the shelf.
Yeah.
I don't want to get sprayed by a skunk. I heard that whole process. If you get sprayed by a skunk, that can take several hours to
I remember
remove
watching A
said
Different
smell.
World when I was a kid. I learned.
I definitely never put it on my resume. 402-951-1620. That is the hotline brought to you by 42 Degrees The Source, by your mom's house. Just like Frank, that was a fabulous email, Frank, into the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally, professionally, and no skunks are outside of the door. There are 2 locations here in Omaha.
Doug.
Gary at 1620thezone.com.
Handley at 1620zone.com.
Also on the JTech Construct. No, Jimmy, give me your email. People like to email Jimmy.
Okay, what is my email? Jimmy at 1620thezone.com.
Spelled the right way.
Spelled the correct way. Just like the good Lord intended.
I know. There's somebody yesterday brought up Gary Maddox to me. And I'm like,
Sarge?
Guy's dead to me. No, Gary Matthews.
Oh.
But Gary Maddox used to play
Gary
center
Matt-
field
yeah.
for Philadelphia. Spelled Gary incorrectly because he had an extra R. Like Greg Sharp spells Sharp incorrectly.
With the E.
There
at the
never
end,
should be an E on the end of Sharp. It should always be just SHARP. So when Jimmy Allen sits in for you, we go back and forth of who is better, an IE or a wire.
I think a wire.
Thank
A
you.
wire.
Thank you. Also, shout out Jimmy Allen, loyal listener of the show.
You can also tweet at us on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620.
At Nick Handley 1620.
Jimmy? Oh no, wait,
What?
you don't do Twitter.
Very little.
Well, aren't you blocked? Like, don't you
blocked?
like aren't your
No,
tweets,
that's Jacob.
aren't your
No,
tweets
he's
private?
Yeah, he's private. He's not blocked.
Yeah, so why
I don't know if I'm blocked by
He's
anybody.
got-
I can
he's-
see
okay,
John Rothstein.
He's got the guard up though.
what was when your Twitter account is private and you have like follow requests, do you get a notification if you have to accept them or not?
Yes.
Just like Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah.
So your DMs aren't open.
They're not.
Okay, so no sliding into Jimmy's DMs today.
Mine are open, and
Slide into
honestly, the majority of them are, "Hey, saw your profile. You good looking. You want
What you got
girlfriend?"
You click on them?
No.
Why
sure
not?
don't.
She love you long time.
I need to do what you do. I need to respond and ask. So, what do you think, Matt Rule in year 2?
That's what I was. That's my response to people.
The Sharp and Handley page.
And then if
the
they
DSO.
respond,
What do you think? Is Teddy going to be ready to go or what?
like we get a lot of spam email here of people that, hey, I'd like to set up a business meeting with you to
Yes.
talk about your website.
Yep.
And that's my default is, how do you think Matt Rule will do in year 2? Those go away. I don't need to block them anymore. They just go away.
Well,
They're like,
The same thing with the interview requests. I need to respond like, would so-and-so be willing to talk a little bit about how pivotal of a year this is for Nebraska football, year 2 under Matt Rule, even though they're a scientist or something. And usually you probably wouldn't get a follow-up email ever again. Like, we reached out to the wrong people.
There.
CJ Swan, by the way, the old Swan Tech we know, he has another good example for a coach. Like Deion, where you're more about the coach and less the team, said I'd love to follow Mike Leach just for him coaching, not the team itself. I would say Mike Leach was probably like that as well, because
Rest
especially
in
when he was at Washington State. I mean, Texas Tech is one thing, but when he was at Washington State, there was a lot of times that they just kind of got lost in the shuffle out there. Even if they were having an 8-win season, he didn't really care because Mike Leach was always giving you something every week at a press conference.
You didn't watch
Yeah.
all of Drew Bledsoe's
that's
games?
that's a good one.
Ryan Leaf.
It seems like more in college basketball, we'll follow the coach, but not really care about the program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Deion is like the major one in college football where people follow Deion, but I don't really care about Colorado. You think all of his celebrity friends that come through there with the pregame shows, they care about Colorado?
No.
Come on, pull
You
this
mean they
leg
won't
and
be
it
there next year?
pull this leg and it plays Jingle Bells.
Such a dad thing.
They'll all be in Dallas next
Why
year.
is that a
with
dad
Cowboys.
That is the most dad. Because I remember my dad saying that.
Well, I mean, I feel honored that you mentioned your dad and myself in the
Yeah.
same sentence.
You're in good company there, but I'm just saying it's such a dad thing. We never even understood what it meant growing up.
Do you use them?
God, now I feel
You're
super
dad.
old. No offense to your dad.
I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
No, he just turned 80, so it's
All
okay.
right. Hey. Sharpie got 30 plus years. Hey, go get him. All right, 6:37. You have all the deets. You have the combo. When we come back is the thing that was announced yesterday, the NIL practice, a genius idea. Or are you disappointed that it's going to cost you to have access, which would be not a new thing.
Dennis Franchione.
All right, we are off and running. There's Nick. There's Jimmy. I am Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and all of you on 1620 The Zone. Jermaine O'Neal was catching strays last night.
All right, 2003.
The Malice in Charlotte with the Uruguay. Is it Uruguayan?
Uruguayan?
How about the Uruguay?
Uruguay?
Uruguay. There you go.
I don't even know.
Learning a lot
I don't even
today.
know if that's factual or not.
Hey, I didn't come here to play school, but I'm being educated today. We had a little incident in the stands in Charlotte where people were starting to talk about the malice in the palace. But can we give some respect to the malice in the palace? Because for it officially to be when players go into the stands to fight fans and fans are fighting players, it is not the malice in the palace. Of course, if Jermaine O'Neal is not involved or Steven Jackson, but you have to have
NBA's champion Steven Jackson.
You have to have, for it to qualify as the malice in the palace, you have to have one falcon punch attempt by a player.
Yep.
You also have to have an empty cup thrown.
Yep. Someone laying on either the field or the bench.
And then you have to have a torn jersey. So for people that want to call it the malice in the palace part 2, you got to be careful because we have levels of what the malice in the palace was. That was just a bat blank, crazy, emotionally filled Copa where people are going to the stands. There was a guy I saw, he had more shots on a dude than he did on goal. So you're going to see that video, and people now will outlaw soccer, or there will be some that were wishing that Greg Berhalter was in the stands being just pummeled by the
took one.
Uruguayan soccer team.
I guess you could say his coaching career for the United States men's national team took a direct shot to the face.
The soccer
took a direct shot to the face.
Yes. All right, welcome back in. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy here as well. Jimmy will have an update coming up after the top of the hour. Sarah Baker Hansen, Stephen M. Sipple, and Brian Edwards all stopped by on this Thursday, the 11th of July. Announced yesterday, and tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. this morning, so don't be late. If you would like to see the Nebraska football team, which officially opens up camp on July 31st, I imagine, haven't seen it announced that Fan Day, which is still free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
No, we're in a day and age where I think you have to ask those questions.
You do.
July 30th, I would imagine would be Fan Day. So let's say, practice starts on July 31st. And if I'm doing the math correctly, the August 3rd practice that was announced yesterday, that for $25 you can get access to and go watch Nebraska practice, and all proceeds go to $18.90. So it's the NIL practice. That'll be a padded practice, correct?
Should be, yes. Because I thought about that immediately of, okay, well, they actually get to see something other than helmets and shorts, and it should be a padded practice.
So some weren't really excited about this because what if I don't have $25 and I want to watch my favorite team? And remember, they did a open practice in the spring. Scott's staff did it, and it was extremely popular. You missed out COVID's year. They gave you an opportunity to come watch practice, and all you had to do was reserve your ticket. And it was a pretty cool thing. Went on probably a little bit too long for some people, but they had a fairly good crowd in the middle of the spring to come watch that practice. This is a real deal. We're getting ready for the season practice. Now, it's not the first time they've done it, but this is the first time they're asking for money, because there have been as a donor with the NIL, you do get a little bit of access. You could come watch a practice. They have it a lot. They've had a lot really over the last fall a little bit, and the spring, that if you are you donate to NIL, they'll have a special practice for you. Like, teams practicing regularly, but the only people that are there are not, are fans, but you have made a donation. So this is not new across the landscape. It's now just more public. So is paying for access, $25 to go watch a practice, is this a genius idea, with the caveat that all of it goes to the student athletes or to David Sanders? I may have added that.
Hey, if you want a 5-star, you got to. What did you say earlier?
That might be my bad.
If you want to play, you got to pay.
As the stripper at the Lariat Club in Fremont said to former play-by-play guy of Nebraska football, if you want to pay, you got to pay. $25 for fan access. Genius idea. Now,
genius idea. Like it.
I say the David Sanders thing a little bit in jest, but let's see. Big announcement on Monday.
Yep.
David Sanders says Nebraska's in his Final Four. They have a thing with 1890 they announced. Now they're announcing this. If you would like Nebraska to get a 5-star offensive tackle, $25, you can see the current team play before David gets here. Go.
Yeah. You get to, think of it.
Nice.
You get to not only contribute to the future.
Not be sarcastic.
Probably 50. There's some truth to that. You get to contribute to the future of the football program and get to watch the program in the now. So
spend some time in Lincoln.
Genius idea.
This is a Saturday, right? I mean, I have it written down here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. It'll be a night practice.
Oh, so it'll be not hot as it would be in the day.
What's going on?
Anything that happens at night in Lincoln stays in Lincoln.
You guys are going to have to help me
tell
with
the fans
with this act that's going on at CHI Health Center that night.
Town. We have Skunk Tom.
Peso Pluma?
Excuse me?
Who?
Peso Pluma?
I'm not sure how you.
Is that a Rat cover band?
I had to look the dude up, and
It's a dude.
Yeah, it's a guy who looks like a little Kid Rock. So I'm unfamiliar with him, but he's performing
in the big arena.
Yeah, he's performing at CHI
all
Health
of the
Center.
other like Sumter amphitheaters that we have here in town.
Well,
he's big enough to go
he
into
will
the Chi?
follow the
Damn.
he will follow
Is
the
he
July
opening?
30th performance of one Barry Manilow.
So the same crowd will stick around for that.
Apparently, Five Finger Death Punch is on the 21st.
Oh, they should open for Barry Manilow.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I wish we had more venues.
This might be a big deal to some people. So I didn't know if you guys knew who this was. So I'm glad that I'm not alone here. No, I there's a lot of this that I like. There is. Do I want to go as far as saying it's genius? I think $25 to watch a practice that they will be probably a little bit more guarded on what they show.
No, though
I mean, I know you don't want to waste a day.
If you're going to pay for $25,
that's why I'd hope it would be.
They're going to have to give you something, and if that's the first time they're in pads, maybe.
Yeah, I would hope so. I think at the end of the day, this is a very good thing because I'll give you credit because you brought this up a few months ago. Of at what point will NIL cross into the full access? And I think you even said if I was looking on ways to get people more involved in NIL, you would present something similar to this, where you have access to go to basketball practices, access to go to football practices, and access outside of what normal people have a chance to see, like a spring game or a fan fest type event where, you know what, come all, we're going to practice. You can see the first hour of practice. What the media are even privy to see in the first 15 minutes. So you do feel like
will they allow media at this? If the media pays $25, if Sam McEwen says, you know what, I'm paying $25,
I want to cover better players.
I mean, they would not going to stop him, right? Sam McEwen, the Citizen, okay?
No. Yeah, I mean, if you want to go, like if any of us wanted to go, and there's no,
zone
quote,
field trip
credentials,
I'd be expensing that thing.
Oh yeah, well, it would. Hey, you could too. It'd be justified because you would talk about what you saw the following Monday. And
then our company would take it off. They would do a tax deduction.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was like, well, you still got to come up with $7.65. But anyway, I think the premise of it
Here's a stress ball.
Is probably perfect for this culture, for this fan base, because there's something to be said about a lot of the conversation about how practices are, how they're different compared to previous coaching staffs. What are they getting done? There's people still want to see 15. People want to see as much of 15 as they can. And the only thing I feel like you could pull this off. I understand $25 is you get enough people there. That's going to stack up some money there to put in the old coffer, but you couldn't do it for $10. Spring game's still $10, right?
No, spring game is 15 to 25.
Is it 15? Okay,
inflation.
Okay,
I think depending on where you sit, but
yeah,
I think that's gone up.
Okay, 25 slightly steep for me.
Okay,
but I think the idea behind it, and I think going forward, doing more things like this outside of just even football too, I think is a great thing because we are in a unique state where this football program for 365 days a year is the conversation. How many times have fans got access to it? But how many times do fans dismiss the idea of, I'll be a fan, I'll show up, I'll buy tickets to go to games. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to donating to the program, I just don't have that type of money. Now, if you want to throw me a bone and you want to allow me to have access to something that I otherwise wouldn't have, now I can justify spending $25, bringing the kids. It might be an expensive night, but this is such a unique thing that, okay, I'm getting something out of it now. I'm getting something out of it right away. I'm going to be entertained. I'm going to have an idea of how everyone's looking, and this will whet my appetite till the games actually matter.
I give them credit for trying. I mean, you got to try new ideas. I mean, they've gone all in on 1890. Everybody knows the NIL.
Mm-hmm.
And we discussed it earlier this week, and somebody stopped me in a public place. They didn't like try and come to my house or anything. And they said they've donated. They'd kind of like to see what the effect of their money is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I donated. Where did it go? What did it get me or get the university?
Sure.
And not everybody has that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, GBR, baby. Let me pull out that checkbook and write a check if you still do. And they're like, I don't care. This person was like, I'd kind of like to see when I pay for my tickets, I know where they're going. Okay, I can.
Right, exactly.
But like maybe if I make a donation, I'd like to kind of see where it's going. I give them credit for trying. I don't have a problem with the $25 because people like access. People like things that are different. People today are paying for experiences. One of the most popular things going on in Major League Baseball right now for people that pay for an experience, and you have to sell. This is the marketing, Gary. Everything now is an experience. This radio show is an experience. This radio station is a restaurant.
Especially today.
You come to the radio station and we give you a lot of different options, but shows are an experience. You are so kind to give us 4 hours and we're going to give you an experience, but people want experiences.
Yep.
One of the most popular things going on in Major League Baseball right now is early access to batting practice. Maybe you've seen it if you've gone early to a game. Those people that are behind home plate that are in the cordon, the I don't know what the word is. I can't think of the word. Cordon off area. They get access to watch batting practice early, and more than likely, there's going to be a manager or a player is going to wander by. They're going to talk to you, maybe sign some autographs, take pictures. People like that kind of access. They like experiences, and so the more that they can offer, I think the better without interrupting the product.
Yeah,
like 50,000 people at an open practice on August 3rd, and they all paid $25, and you guys can do the math. That's pretty good math to get yourself an offensive tackle. Is you're not disrupting the team. And you know that Rule would probably address the crowd.
Yeah.
And maybe they have a couple of their leaders talk to the crowd and say, thank you, the importance of 1890. Dylan Raiola have a special jersey on. It's because of you at donating to 1890 why he's here. And they'll put on a show for you and you'll be like, man, I like that. That's pretty good. I got access. Now it cost me $25, but I got access that, hey, my next door neighbor who's a diehard GBR, he didn't get. I think they're trying. Okay. And the stuff that used to be private because you're a booster, you get to fly on the charter or things like that. Now are probably being offered to more people that have expendable income to spend on this. I love this idea. I think it's here to stay. It costs for access. We know that. I will now watch today when the ticket sales start.
Right.
How high they go, because there's a couple of things going on that night.
Besides peso, whatever.
Yes. The Haymarket Park Beer Fest, which is extremely popular. Those
are fun.
Then
those are fun.
Bud Crawford fights on that night.
That's right.
So now, if to get more people in the stadium, do they say,
stick around?
We'll put the Bud Crawford fight on Husker Vision?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
And you tip Bud off and you let him know that too. And guess what trunks he might be wearing? Or at least in the robe.
But I would not be surprised.
1891.
I wouldn't be surprised if there are at least 50,000 people there. I love this idea. And I'm going to do the math here. Okay.
$25 times 50,000.
Okay. Let's say Nebraska gets 50,000 people for a paid access scrimmage for NIL. Everything's 1890. 50,000 people. Wouldn't surprise you, right? 1.25 mil is what would go straight to 1890. Now, if I'm trying to get an offensive tackle, a 5-star, to build my trenches, I think I could add a little bit to his kitty. Now, I'm saying this maybe sarcastically, but that's a pretty good chunk of change. And athletes at Nebraska seeing that response,
exactly.
You got You got something cooking here.
Terrence brings up something you mentioned, which I think he's right. He said, Handley, what you are describing to me sounds like benefits of a normal booster or a normal booster would want. What's the difference between a school booster and an NIL contributor when it comes to access? And I think that's where you're starting to see that line diminish a little bit. Maybe, okay, let's $25 going to this practice is not going to get you on a charter flight. But again, having access, as you said, having the experience. The other part about this, whatever they decide to do, because I'm with you. I think the Terrence Crawford fight would be an amazing added bonus to do that. This is not just access to fans and encouraging them donate to NIL, in my opinion, too. This is also, you mentioned the student athletes. This is a major NIL flex to prospective student athletes, too, of, hey, because you hear Nebraska, and a lot of people point to Nebraska of why they are so progressive when it came to NIL. When we first got in the absolute beginning stages of this. But remember, we didn't really understand it. And we still don't truly understand it. But you wanted examples of, okay, well, tell me how they're different or how they're doing things that are a little different and how they keep coming up with ideas. This is the perfect example of this because as far as I know, at least it hasn't been publicized that anybody else is doing this to the extent that Nebraska could pull that off. So if you're someone who's thinking about it. I don't think
publicly. There are a lot of schools, college basketball as well, that do it privately. This is one of the rare times I've heard that, hey, if you want to come, and all the money goes to NIL.
Think if it hits that number you're talking about, though. Think if it gets to 50,000. That will be a national story. That will be not only just a college football story, that'll be a national sports story as it pertains to name, image, likeness. And Nebraska will be a part of it. And it's not going to be Nebraska's cheap or they fumbled or they told somebody about an NIL deal and then they forgot to pay it or they didn't pay it and now there's a lawsuit. No, this is going to be nothing but positive headlines about Nebraska's NIL and the creative ways that they get more fans involved. You got PJ Fleck who's pleading with his fans to donate to Dinkytown, and yet you can point to this example and say, look at, not only are our fans great on game day, but look at what they're supporting our student athletes. Look at what they're doing.
Absolutely. Even if you get 40,000 to this on August 3rd, and tickets go on sale today at 10 a.m., I better get a slice of this. Even 40,000, that's $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
That's $1 million. And I would say probably a good portion of that mill will be from people that have not gotten engaged with your NIL collective.
That's a great point because then after that, you're probably more open to donating without having the next experience, knowing that there's going to be something else coming down the road. But in the meantime, I'll give you another $50.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that all that adds up when people understand, like you said, where you're seeing where it's going and you're seeing access or events, unique opportunities to see this football team other than a regular game day Saturday.
And they won't probably do credentials. So they're going to make, let's say there's 40 media members that want to go see this. Hold on here.
Now, all their outlets will pay for it, but still they're going to have to pay for it.
So from media, that's an extra $1,000 because I don't think they'll credential you.
I would doubt it.
But they can't stop you.
No.
If, you know.
Like you said, you expense it.
I mean, let's look at the Schaefer family. So that's $75.
Mm-hmm.
Shelby and Hud will be going.
Yep.
And, you know, Schaefer will be there as just a fan.
A fan.
Yeah, I don't think they can keep the media out, but they're going to charge the media.
Yeah, I actually think of this as a great opportunity for my little dude to go and just watch it and see this because
you're frugal. There ain't no chance you're paying $25 to go see a practice.
Like I said, we're going to expense it.
To who?
I'll just, you know what? If I can't expense it, then I'll just.
Have you talked to Joey yet?
I'll have it written off with my tax guy.
Remember, if you want to play, you got to pay.
I am pretty frugal.
Never forget that. R.I.P. Lariat Club in Fremont.
And Boomers.
I think
Both.
I think the store on Main Street is still open that we did a remote for Sports Nightly there.
What kind of store were you guys at?
It was
a furniture store?
Yeah, it's a furniture store.
I figured it would be.
It's like a long time, but it's probably been there 100 years.
I know what you're talking about. Is it like in their downtown area?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Nice little downtown there in Fremont.
Yep.
All right, we got an update with Jimmy coming up next. So think about this. What else would you pay for that gives you special access with your favorite team? Some of this stuff that used to be, hey, when back in the day when I got the opportunity to fly on the charter, and you would have donors, just random people would be sitting in the plane. You'd be like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like the academic advisor. They were granted as big boosters. That's how I got to know Dan Cook, by the way.
Okay.
They were granted that access. They still are. But now if you're going to offer, what about a seat on the charter to a game? Would you pay with all proceeds going to NIL? How much would you pay? We'll dive into that coming up after the update. Sarah Baker Hansen, also Steve Sipple, and Brian Edwards will all join the show. Plus, we're going to try and figure out some of the things that Deion Sanders said yesterday. And Colorado has made a new list from Old Sharpie that they might be alone on.
Oh.
Put this in the back of your head. Is Colorado the worst team that serious programs want to beat? Jimmy's got an update coming up next.
Great question.
Just after 7 o'clock here in Skunktown. 1890. Well, Lincoln can be Crime Town. We can be Skunktown. Discuss.
Do you think Lincoln's dealing with this too?
Skunks or crime?
Yeah, the skunks.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like if there's something going on, it's not just sectioned off to Omaha. But I don't know.
They're taking over Nebraska.
Apparently, mating season's not till February for skunks. Anywho,
Nick Handley here for Skunks.
The things we learned.
1890, in conjunction with Nebraska football, hold an evening practice open to the public Saturday, August 3rd. Big Red Preview, as it's being called. They workshopped a lot of names. Will give Husker fans a rare opportunity to attend a Husker football practice at Memorial Stadium before the season kicks off on August 31st against most hated rival UTEP. Fall camp is set to begin 3 days prior, and the team will show off the work they're putting in as they prepare for the season. You think? Gates for the Big Red Preview. It's a great idea, by the way. Event will open at 6 p.m. Practice will begin around 6:30. Tickets will be on sale. This is the most important thing, beginning 10 a.m. this morning. So as soon as this show is over, stop everything you're doing and go do this. Huskers.com/tickets, and it's $25 each. All tickets will be mobile, in case you wanted a hard copy to save. Not a thing anymore. Proceeds from ticket sales will go to, buying athletes, of course. Where they word it is to go to 1890 to support Nebraska student athletes, but let's call it what it is. It's a good thing. So, all right. The Storm Chasers win a second straight game. Also a good thing against Toledo, 10-9. Another close game at Werner Park. That was a day game. They'll play again tonight at 7:05. Other baseball, Adolis Garcia will represent the host Texas Rangers. Monday night's home run derby in Arlington. The Dodgers outfielder Teoscar Hernandez also confirmed he would participate during the baseball broadcast as they were playing the Phillies. Garcia was knocked out by Tampa Bay's Randy Arozarena last year in the first round at Seattle. This will be Hernandez's first time in the Derby. 2 Rangers have won the Derby. You remember Ruben Sierra and Cincinnati's Eric Davis were co-winners in 1989 at Anaheim Stadium. That was the Bo Jackson game. Juan Gonzalez won in 1993 at Baltimore's Camden Yards. And Randy Johnson almost killed John Kruk in the game. Everyone's teams on the show won except for Knicks, although they've won a lot. Cubs beat the Orioles 4-0. The Astros beat Miami 9-1. And the Royals sweep a doubleheader over the Cardinals in St. Louis, and thus an Angel gets his wings. In the NBA, they have agreed to terms on its new media deals, a record 11-year agreement worth $76 billion that will assure player salaries will continue rising for the foreseeable future. I'm sure that'll go over well. And that'll surely change how some viewers access the game for years to come. But let's be honest, nothing's changing. Still going to be garbage by ESPN and ABC because that's the main prove it to me if they're going to change it. The deals, which set NBA records for both length and total value, go into effect. All about the length. For the 25-26 season, games will continue being aired on ESPN and ABC. Get that mute button ready. And now some will be going to NBC. Yeah, and Amazon Prime. TNT, which has been a part of the league's broadcasting family since the 80s, could be on its way out. But they have 5 days to match one of the deals. The 5-day clock would begin once the league sends the finished contracts to TNT. Rest in peace inside the NBA. ESPN and ABC will continue to have the league's top package, which includes the NBA Finals, one of the conference series. They have held NBA fans captive since 2003, and they would continue to air games on Saturday nights and Sunday afternoon. When the NFL's regular season ends, ESPN's main nights will continue to be Wednesday with some Friday and Sunday games. The exclusivity of the finals comes with a big price increase. Mickey Mouse, which owns ESPN and ABC and has drove it into the ground, will pay $2.6 billion per year under the new contract compared to $1.4 billion in its current deal. The return of NBC, which carried NBA games from 1990 to 2002. Oh, what a great time it was. Gives the league 2 broadcast network partners for the first time. NBC's deal is expected to be $2.5 billion per season, which showcase games Sunday night once the NFL season is ended. It will air games on Tuesdays throughout the regular season, and a Monday night package of games will be exclusively streamed on Peacock. So if you have Peacock for your Big Ten stuff, you can watch the NBA. Prime Video would have games on Thursday nights after it's done carrying the NFL. Its other nights will be Friday and Saturday, and NBC and Prime Video will alternate who carries the other conference final. Prime Video will average $1.8 billion per year. Lots of money.
Yes, there is. If you have lots of money, you get access. Thank you, Jimmy.
Exactly.
We got bonus
See what we're doing.
July Raftery
last
night. If you're watching the U.S.-Canada exhibition game. Yeah. We also got Joel Embiid fouled out in the third quarter.
Sometimes you just don't want to be there.
Well,
you could be like Kawhi Leonard.
So he's kind of
not be there.
important. Remember, there was a back and forth between a couple of countries to get Embiid to play. Ended up playing now for the U.S. There's going to be some of the matchups, he's going to be okay. But man, when you see peak Anthony Davis, and then you see Embiid. I mean, Embiid is so like he's slogging.
Yeah.
And then Anthony Davis, healthy Anthony Davis is like light on his feet, looked really good last night. I was glad to see my Ant-Man, who Jimmy tried to kill a couple of months ago.
The Mavericks ended up doing it instead.
Dun. He looked really good.
Sorry, Dan.
He looked good. I enjoyed watching that. That was sloppy. It was a slow start. But anytime you can have Raftery in July saying onions and Gus Johnson saying whatever, I'm like, wow.
Exactly.
I mean, I had a Wednesday night Gusgasm.
Did you have a Gusgasm last night?
I had a Gusgasm last night.
Kelly Olynyk.
Clean up on aisle 4.
They probably didn't get all that excited about Kelly Olynyk.
Loved him in the middle.
Coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, Sarah Baker Hansen will join us. Media Days, talking season continues. Big 12 is wrapped up. We'll get ready for the SEC next week. The ACC and the Big 10 kind of go with each other. The Pac-12, or as I like to call them, the Tupac, is holding their event in Vegas. How ironic. The Tupac is holding their media event in Vegas.
Yep. We all remember that night in Vegas.
I would not go out into the streets.
No, I wouldn't.
But they have an open bar. I mean, this is writing itself because you know who still might be in Vegas? Mike Gundy.
And he's driving. There's no Uber for Mike Gundy, so be careful.
Just 2 or 3. Okay.
I'm here for the Tupac just being
holding court,
just generating content after content.
This should just be a Friday show on a Thursday, by the way.
It should be more of a modest hotel conference room for the Tupac. I mean, that's what it should be.
I don't know, man. I've stayed in some, like when you don't stay on the strip and you don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get stuck in some just trash places.
Or you're playing in a
I feel like I'm a
tournament
little
at a rodeo.
kid back in Dixon, Illinois again, when that's the worst hotel I've ever stayed in.
They're saying the Vegas Econo Lodge is probably not where they're going to hold the Tupac.
Well, isn't there? It's not called a Red Lion. That's an Omaha thing.
I do remember the
Anna
Red Lion.
Lawrence
There's
thing.
one
Shout
way
out.
off the strip that I stayed in one time. It's not a red roof. It might even be a red roof.
Inn?
It might be a red roof.
Oh, yeah. I think they have one. I know they have one out there.
Dude,
I never stayed there, but I know they have one.
That was one of my first times to Vegas. I was like, ooh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be the first time that I've ever gotten propositioned by a prostitute.
What do I say?
I'm like, look at all the ladies out there. They're not.
What
for
are all
us.
these flyers?
Yes.
Wow. You've been to the Alamo Dome. You could have just gone a block to the east. And
You mean I'm getting 10% off? All right. So the discussion about access and the NIL practice, again, I think it's a great idea. Even if you have 40,000 people, that's $1 million. You get 50,000, that's 1.25 million. You can do the math. It can go up.
Just keep
Tickets
going
go on sale today at 10. This is kind of a new concept, but I think people get it. But here's the other part of what you can do now that you make public. A lot of stuff's been private. You know, like there's a certain basketball team here. Like they're bigger boosters. We'll get to fly on the charter. Okay? You get to sit next to John Bishop. Isn't that pretty cool?
That is cool.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm just mentioning who that basketball team was. But that's, and a lot of schools do that.
show.
As a perk of a donor, you might get to travel with the team. So you get to the charter flight, you get the escort to the hotel, to the arena, back on the flight, all of that kind of stuff. And that's just hey, thank you for being part of it.
Yeah.
And that's going to continue. That will always continue. But what if they said, you know what, if you'd like to pay for that, this is the price. There would be people that would pay for it. Because I'm thinking, what would you pay for to benefit the school's collective? Like if you could design something of, I would pay X amount of dollars to be able to do this if it all went to NIL. Travel with the team?
I think that's a good one. I think traveling with the team, you've been through this a lot. I've been through it with baseball. It's to see the player, the student athletes and the coaches in more of a relationship, but also going on a business trip is actually kind of interesting. Just to see how everyone moves around. You're not saying much. You're taking it all in. You're maybe listening to some of the conversations that the student athletes are having. You feel like you're getting a chance to know them more on a personal level, even if you don't have a lot of interaction with them, with you and those student athletes or coaches. It is, I would say this, it is interesting, especially when you're rolling charter. So it's you and them. You're not worrying about the outside public. So then you have a little bit of that status feeling too. I think the travel is a big deal, and I think you know how big those charter flights are too. Who's to say you can't section off a few rows for that alone?
Yeah,
and the fact that you can't have that many available allows you to justify a pretty decent price. Doesn't mean you have to be this exclusive donor that's been doing this for years. This would be a one-trip type opportunity where I think you could charge a pretty good price where people would say, hey, I'm not doing this annually, or I'm not donating monthly that price, but for the trip to LA to see Nebraska USC, that could be kind of cool for me to get to, again, access and to be part of an experience.
The big thing is you don't want to disrupt the student athlete or the preparation for the game.
Yep.
So you need to be kind of like a wallflower.
Yes.
And not be like in the middle of the table.
Right. But it's fun to do that.
Yes, but the whole goal is you want to make that person that's spending money feel special, like they're getting something that somebody else is not getting, and it's probably going to come with a large price tag. Clint says this is interesting, and I don't know who wouldn't sign up for this. He said, I'd pay to sit and watch coaches how they break down game or practice tape.
I think that's another really good one.
Now, if you weren't a disruption, I would be all for that. I think there are some other things of you could put into play. The travel with the team and being around the team in their prep for the game would be pretty cool. But then if you are a donor that donates a lot of money and you get one trip a year, or a lot of programs have the donor trip where you might, you're on they get a larger plane for travel that day. All of a sudden you got Tom, Dick, and Harry who's got $40K and is like, hey, I'll go.
Yeah.
And you're like, they'll never come back, or they'll never, you have to balance all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the travel, being access to the team away from the spotlight, would be pretty cool. Here's another one. How much would you pay, y'all would pay, and all of it goes to Nebraska's NIL, to rent out Memorial Stadium for one day? To have a party. They would turn on Husker Vision. They would give you the clicker.
Yeah.
You could have the music, food, drink, all of your friends. How much would you pay to rent out Memorial Stadium for a day?
I think that would go very well. I think there would be, I'm trying to think what you would do. Like, so it's all day. Like, you got this for multiple hours.
Maybe we have to cut it back. Maybe like 4 hours.
4 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
So
invite as many people as you want. You got the whole stadium. There's certain places you can't go.
Yeah.
But we'll give you a tour.
Yep.
But we'll turn on Husker Vision. You got the music. If you want to play a game on the field, sign a bunch of waivers.
Right. Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff. But it's you have the stadium for 4 hours to do whatever you want.
I think that'd be a huge one.
Legally.
Because, again, it's access to something that Nebraska fans hold sacred. And now it is yours for 4 hours, where an hour you could play football. You could do I'm trying to think what else, just kind of walking around and kicking field goals and doing all kinds of, I mean, think about it. The amount of pictures that you would be taking, you may not even need 4 hours of this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it might be just a 2-hour deal where you've got that. I like the idea. You do the full tour and then you end the tour coming through the tunnel, and then boom, you could go through a tunnel. They'll do a tunnel walk for you.
You basically, you're right. That's a great point. You create the experience at Memorial Stadium.
Yep.
Going to cost you $50K, maybe not that much, $10K, but you get the experience of being what Memorial Stadium is. I love that. Great idea about the tunnel walk.
Yeah, you do, because that's something that you've been in the stands. You know how it sounds outside, but to experience it, and they can pipe in the crowd noise too while you're coming in and then out of it, that, you get to hit the horseshoe and all of that. I think that would be pretty sweet.
A couple of other things that you can do now that I don't hear a lot about. Like, what about individual player visits? The community service stuff will always remain the same. That'll never cost you. If you want a player to come to a hospital or that, they're never going to charge for that. That's the community relations part of student athlete, and how important it is for athletic departments to have that connection. Like, they're not going to say, hey, And Omaha Athletics is great at this, is getting out their teams and their cheerleaders to the parades around town. You can't go to a parade in Omaha and not see Omaha Athletics not represented.
Right.
Mike West and his crew, they do a great job organizing that. But they don't ever say, hey, Juneteenth parade, you want the Mavs to be there, we're going to need 1,500.
Right.
They don't ever do that. So that'll never change. But what about players coming like to hang out at your kid's birthday party?
So
how much would you pay for Ryan Kalkbrenner? Because, about getting married, got to go on a honeymoon, got to pay for it. Yeah. How much would you pay for Ryan Kalkbrenner to come to your kid's birthday party?
Yeah, the appearance fees. And this was always something that I thought when we first got into NIL, that was going to be a big deal.
I did too.
It was always going to be, it's kind of funny. I think of, what was the fest? Fire Fest. Remember that app was, that app was supposed to basically be the same thing with celebrities. It was a booking app. Because I remember when we first started talking about NIL, I made that comparison. I'm like, oh, this is like the college football's version of the Fire app. Not the Fire Fest. Hopefully it's not dumpster fire like that. But where you would be able to reach out to a university and somebody in compliance and say, because remember, you had the menu essentially. And now this goes back to Blake Lawrence and when they were first. Yeah. And so you could reach out and say, we would like him for an appearance at this, or we'd like her for an appearance at this event. And there would be a price that you could, as long as it worked out in their schedule, then they had the opportunity to review your offer or your obligation, and then they could tell you if it worked in their schedule or not. So it didn't guarantee that you would get them, but you could basically put in an offer. Whatever happened to that? Because that was supposed to be a big thing.
Okay, so I've been told here, if you'd like Ryan Kalkbrenner to come to your birthday party, they do that at Creighton.
Okay. Well, see, there you go. I'm sure Nebraska does. I just don't know what the channels are now.
Probably not as public. Well, the channels in the past is you could have a player come over on a Sunday and you do his laundry and you cook him dinner and then he would leave with his laundry and there might be some cash while he left.
Check that bottom of the basket there.
Now it's a little bit different. So
now it's legal.
Here's another thought I had. And this is, if you're just tuning in, this is on the heels of the announcement by Nebraska that they're going to have an NIL practice coming up on Saturday night, August 3rd, $25 gets you into the stadium to watch practice. We think it'll be the first padded practice.
I think so, yeah.
Tickets go on sale at 10 today, $25. Get in, watch practice. What if some stuff that used to be free to the average fan, Nick, all of a sudden brought a cost? And I'm going to let you run with this because I think you MC this. Aaron Whaley and his crew with the bull market at Omaha, they, for what they have to work with and where they started to where they are now, they've done a great job. And they're trying to grow the collective at Omaha. And I think Aaron is doing a great job. What if all of a sudden skate with the Mavs became $25 to skate with the Mavs? You know how passionate Omaha hockey fans are, and that's a big event to them.
Yep.
And it's usually right before the season starts, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's usually the week or 2 weeks before.
What if they were all of a sudden charging $25 and all the money went to the bull market?
I actually, and this may or may not surprise you, I actually think you'd still get a similar turnout, because I think the people who show up for that is not necessarily because it's the free event. I think they show up because they are true Omaha hockey supporters. And a lot of those Omaha hockey supporters like to support the other athletic programs, at least men's and women's basketball, volleyball, soccer as well, that I think it would work. But here's my only concern. So what they do at this event, and you're right, I've done this now for the last few years, and there was one year that they didn't do a game, but they just did a skills competition, which I thought was fantastic.
Yep. I remember. I think I was there.
Yeah, I think it was the year Baxter opened. Actually, I think it was the first year they didn't want to do
Andre Schuster.
Yeah, and I remember his miles per hour on his slap shot was freaking insane. But anyway, Luke Snuggerud too. But this is the only concern I'd have is, and this goes back to the crux of this entire conversation. Now think about what they do. They do autographs, they do a skate with the Mavs, and then they scrimmage. I think you need to give them something more. That's the question. What more can you give them that makes the experience just a little bit more unique than what it already has been, so you can justify a price tag? Other than the fact that this event is strictly going to the bull market and to NIL, there needs, in my opinion, needs to be something a little extra that you haven't gotten in the last rounds of this, that are more coach or player involvement with the fans that show up. And I'm not sure exactly what that would be, but I think you have to give them something a little bit more. But I do think the majority of them, as long as they know that's what it's going to, we interact with them a lot. They are extremely, that fan base is extremely passionate. That I think there's always been questions. You hear this chatter a lot of, what are we doing with our NIL? How are we going to be able to think about what the Summit League goes through with their best players? You tell me that some of the best players, maybe you have a stud freshman or sophomore on Omaha's hockey team that all of a sudden isn't thinking about, BC comes calling, or Boston U comes calling, or even North Dakota within the conference comes calling, because they can provide more with NIL. If you know that you have a chance to contribute to the bull market and to keep some of your best talent there, that's going to be enticing to them. I just think you got to give them a little bit more in that event.
Mailman Todd, and by the way, hat tip to all the men and women that are working outdoors over the next couple of days, because we have our first real heat wave. So maybe my mail won't get there as quickly as it does with Mailman Todd.
Might just feel a little bit more warm too.
He says, I would like to spend a day on the road with a coach who's recruiting.
Oh, I like that.
Now, I don't know all the rules, because let's just say I showed up at, I'm trying to think of one of the most obscure, his name escapes me. Offensive lineman from Illinois that Bo spent 9 hours at his house. He had some he had some back and knee injuries, didn't play much in Nebraska. He was a junior college transfer.
I
First
know
name
who
was
you're
Matt.
Was it Sichterman?
No. So Bo went to this guy's house in Illinois, and he was there for 9 hours. That might be a little bit much. I don't know what the legality would be, but can you imagine showing up at somebody's house where the prospects' mother and father are anticipating, Coach Rule and Coach Knighton, and all of a sudden there's just Ted from Waverly, and Ted's in the house, and they're like, Coach Rule,
Ted, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Coach Rule, can you tell Ted to take off his shoes? That's not how we do it here. And all of a sudden Ted just starts wandering around the house.
Yep, just looking around, and then all of a sudden during the pitch they allow Ted to even speak his passion about, well, I'm here to represent the fan base here and to tell you what your experience will be like through our eyes too.
And son, if you come to Nebraska, I got some cash for you. I don't know how that works. Now, I think that would be a fascinating thing behind the scenes of following how it all works and what goes on in the home if you've not been recruited. I like it. I just don't know that we'll ever get to that point, because that would be damn awkward.
Could we take it to a different level on that?
Who is it? You know what it would be like? It'd be like the Seinfeld episode when George had to go to the house because he needed to watch.
He's got to watch Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
And
and the wife arrives home. The mom arrives home, and she's like, "Who's that guy?"
Yeah. And then they're having a conversation like, could you guys keep it down a little bit?
Yeah.
No, okay. Let's take this idea then.
Can I get some more? Can I get another piece of steak?
Do you guys have extras? Okay. To that same premise though, because I do like the idea. I know as a huge Chicago Bears fan and just an NFL fan, have always wanted to be in a war room. I know. I've always wanted to be in a war room before draft day.
Yeah.
And be able to see the conversations that take place, the way they prioritize guys, the different types of elements of each potential draftee that they're breaking down, and how those conversations are going. Now, you don't get the full, week long, but in a similar vein of when you start organizing a lot of your priorities with recruiting, that you're able to sit in a recruiting meeting.
Now,
it's kind of like a war room.
How about this? You're able to be with the staff on signing day.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Even better. Yeah. So as things are coming in and you're riding the emotions with them, and those conversations again of prospects and what you feel they're going to bring to the table. And if there's someone that all of a sudden emerged in the 11th hour, a lot of the drama that comes with it, I think that would be awesome. Again, that's an experience that I think if you were able to be a part of that, hell, there's a lot of us that wish we could be a fly on the wall in some of those, especially how some of those days have gone in, last couple decades. that you'd love to see what the reaction is. Well, there you are. You get to see the reaction.
KG writes in the Equitable Bank inbox, how many would like to do a practice session with pads and a locker room experience? This was kicked around. Now Rule just introduced the women's flag football camp.
Yep.
This was kicked around in Bo's era of doing a Nebraska football fantasy camp.
Makes me think of Seinfeld and the Yankees fantasy camp too.
I mean, baseball fantasy camps are huge. Like in January, all the spring training sites are like packed of people that are doing the fantasy camp with their heroes.
Mm-hmm. Just don't punch Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. What if you had a Nebraska football fantasy camp? You padded up every day.
Yep.
They matched you up with similar age and size and athletic ability, and you were hitting, and you ended up playing a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You lined up against one of the Peters.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right. Quick break. We'll come back. Top of the hour, Sarah Baker Hansen stops by. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. You heard me talking about how great my experience has been with Lindley Clothing, and I know that you guys have had a great experience as well. Men that have said, you know what? I need a place that's got the best prices, the best selection, the best customer service, because I need to get suited up. And you've headed to Lindley Clothing, conveniently located in the Linden Market, 132nd and West Dodge, and now well-suited, so even more for you to choose from. And not just suits, but don't forget about sportswear as well. Now, I recently got a brand new suit, and the best part of my experience wasn't the price, or now that I have a designer suit that I look really good in. It makes me look really slim. Thank you, Seth. But the attention to detail that I got while I was there, the professionalism, because I, again, don't have the greatest body to fit. So they're like, squeeze it in a little bit. No. But the energy in the store, it was great. It was fantastic. The conversation going on, the customer service. And that's why people keep coming back to Lindley Clothing. And that's why they've been in business for almost 90 friggin' years in Omaha. Lindley Clothing and well-suited. Stop by today. Find yourself. Either you need a suit for something coming up, a sports coat. You're going to be outside. You're going to be at a wedding. Or, don't forget, sportswear as well. Shirts, shorts, they got it all. Lindley Clothing, well-suited. 132nd and West Dodge in the Linden Market. Hey, speaking of money, as we welcome back into Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy,
So money.
Omaha is going to play at Minnesota on November 9th. Gophers are going to write a check to Omaha for $100K. So put that on your non-conference schedule.
Yep.
Which Omaha is about done. That might be it. And Nebraska is about done. That's why kudos to Creighton getting out their non-conference schedule as soon as they did.
You know your schedule, though, pretty much.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But I cannot share.
I understand that.
But if you'd like to pay a price, I will tell you a couple of the key games that are on that schedule. Slide into my DMs, please.
It's the experience.
Jimmy, let me ask you a question because
Yes,
Now
I
that-
meant everything I said.
now that we are in media days, talking season, we got some Big 12 discussion. The ACC, their media days begin on July 22nd. Florida State has announced a board of trustees meeting on the same day. I told you, a couple of people I talked to from Florida State, when they were here for the College World Series, I said, are you going to be joining us here in the Big Ten? And they're like, no one knows. People have Big Ten, SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
The nose just grows.
and they said Big 12. And I said, really? Wouldn't that be like the last resort for Florida State and Clemson to join the Big 12? That would not make sense, right?
None of this has made sense.
If before the middle of August, Florida State and Clemson go to the Big 12,
Yeah.
it's SEC or Big 10 or bust, correct?
Yeah, essentially, if you're able to get out of that with as little of an exit fee as possible, wasn't the idea always the Big 10 and the SEC, not the Big 12? I feel like, I think the Big 12 is very interesting, and as we've talked about basketball-wise, is just a monster. But if this is just from the football conversation, isn't that kind of settling?
Go in another conference and dominate?
Well, you could. That is true. You could become the new Texas and Oklahoma if you want to really go that way. But I think there's an idea of you went through all of that. You were beating that drum for so long to go to the Big 12. Is this because the Big 10 isn't open for business or the SEC isn't ready to welcome you in?
It's been way too quiet from Birmingham, Alabama to suburban Chicago.
Yep.
Been way too quiet. This stuff happens at media days. But we've never really, we've speculated that Florida State and Clemson are on the move out of the ACC. And I don't know about you guys, but Clemson, South Carolina and Tallahassee, Florida are not like, within driving distance of, let's say, Lincoln, Nebraska, or Los Angeles, California. Would people be excited to have Florida State and Clemson in the Big Ten?
I think so.
If something happens and before the season kicks off and we're still trying to wrap our arms around 4 joining the Big Ten, you hear that 2 more are on their way. Would Florida State and Clemson in the Big Ten move your needle?
For me, yeah. I mean, from a football standpoint, yeah.
Okay, are you talking a football standpoint of a experience that you might get to go to a game at when Doak Campbell is redone? They're cut down capacity this year because they're redoing part of the stadium. It'd be about more of the experience, or go to Death Valley.
Yep, and see the Rock.
But you're not talking about, oh Jesus, if things weren't already tough, now you're adding Florida State and Clemson.
This becomes, I mean, it's a buzzsaw. It's an absolute buzzsaw right now. And I still feel we're getting to a point where everything we discuss from a conference standpoint and realignment standpoint is temporary for the bigger picture of when all this breaks away from the FBS as we know it now, where technically Group of Fives still have a shot to be in the playoff, all of that comes with the current format, that this is all temporary, to where we get everything broken back off to your Clemson's of the world, your Florida States, your Nebraskas, and then it becomes regionalized again because you're essentially going to have like an NFL. You're basically going to have an AFC and an NFC. So it would be extremely competitive, but I think of what you just laid out, having a chance to make that trip to Tallahassee, having a chance to make that trip and see Clemson, which is kind of cool.
Which Nebraska has never played in Tallahassee.
Yep.
So they've played Florida State 8 times. They're 2-6, and a majority of those, especially the last 4, were all in bowl games in Tempe or Miami. But even back in the 80s when Bowden was trying to put his program on the map, Nebraska never went to Tallahassee. So they've never played Florida State outside of Lincoln or a bowl game.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd,
but yeah, like you said, like they have history with one another.
Danny McManus.
The other part, now this is where I'd have to temper my expectations again, because I think all of this is
Casey Weldon.
extremely temporary. But think about what that would do for baseball. I know. I try not to look beyond the football part of it.
Would kill Florida State and Clemson baseball.
It would. I mean, they would hate it, but I'm sorry, their angst is the Big Ten's gain when it comes to a Big Ten baseball product that's trying to bolster itself with the new additions now. You throw in those two on top of it. Hey, this is more than a 2-bid league.
I asked this question because I wonder if people like around here are like, oh, man, that'd be great. We get Florida State. We get Clemson. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be awesome. We get Dabo. We get Mike Norvell. We got 2 programs that have won national championships more recently than us. Man, we get to go to Clemson, South Carolina. It'd be pretty cool. Wish I could say at Trev's Lake House, but he sold it. Go to Florida State. Go see the Capitol. Tallatrashy.
Tallanasty. I've heard both.
It is.
Dude, it's a rough.
Both.
It's a rough.
I've never
town.
been.
Yeah, it's a rough. Tallahassee is a rough place. But now just play with me here a little bit. The Big 12. You would be the 2 biggest brands.
100%.
In the 3rd most popular conference.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't be the jump to the top. Still be a little bit regional, out of your way compared to staying in the SEC.
You close that gap though.
This will be really fascinating to see how this goes. But it's media days. This is when the stuff starts happening, and we hear more about it. Just been really quiet from Sankey and Petiti. But I'll go back to, are people going? If you went to an event today, and you're golfing with buddies, and you say, "Man, can you guys?" I mean, that's going to be in the Big Ten. How great is that going to be? Are they going to go, oh, yeah, I can't? Or are they going to go, Or are they going to go, Jesus, if a school like Nebraska, their climb was already tough enough.
Right.
You had another recruiting power.
Oh, I think initially you get excited because of the cachet that the conference continues to bring with the football product. But yeah, when you look at it from use this here as an example of, oh boy, Nebraska got a little bit of a break according to how certain teams project in their schedule this year, where they don't have to play Penn State. They don't have to play Oregon. Your chances of avoiding the wave of the programs that are in position to compete for a national championship, your chances of avoiding that in any given year are probably absolute 0. So you're going to have a tough schedule no matter what, every year. And there's part of me that, hey, you either sink or swim on that. But I think people are very much aware, especially here, more than anything, are very much aware of, okay, we want to see improvement with Nebraska. We want to see them take a major step forward. But if you add 2 programs like that to the fold, doesn't that feel like the weight's coming right back down on you to where you've got to, now you're starting back from square one and trying to gain more ground. So it's a good point about how do you feel about the competition. This is what I would say. If you were to add those 2 teams to the Big Ten, what would excite most people about it, and this is kind of silly, but maybe I'm way off on reading people, is, well, now we're right there with the SEC if we weren't already. But you don't really need any more to put yourself right up there with SEC when it comes to the 2 power brokers, the 2 decision makers when it comes to conferences.
Our revenue means more.
Right.
That actually what should be their theme in Indianapolis. Our revenue means more.
I mean, it's true. I mean, and that's what's going to bring you the power. So Florida State and Clemson aren't going to change that, and all of a sudden bring you to greater heights when it comes to your status as a conference.
Brian says Notre Dame and anyone else greater than Florida State and Clemson. And then with Notre Dame, which holds the keys, Iowa JD says, yes, I'd be very excited to both join the Big Ten. Reason is this would make Notre Dame have to choose what to do, as staying independent is no longer viable.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point, too.
Mm-hmm.
It would... I could understand the benefits of both Florida State and Clemson going to the Big 12. And you laid probably the most important part of it out of there, and how it also ultimately benefit the Big 12. But wouldn't it just feel flat? After all of, when this all started more than a year ago, that it was going to be either the Big 10 or the SEC, that all of the things you were able to do, a clear path to get out of the ACC, that you would wind up in the Big 12, it'd feel flat.
It would seem like a last resort.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't seem flat if my bank account looked pretty good.
Right.
So just next month. I mean, we want to get to football. We want to play games. We're not done with the offseason yet.
No, we're not.
Sarah Baker Hansen going to join us here in a little bit. Steve Sipple as well will be raw dogging his way through a 20-minute chat with us, I think. I don't think he can. I don't want to go that far. I don't know if he'll be able to raw dog an interview because there's a lot going on. And then Brian Edwards will stop by as well. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, no pleasure of summertime that needs to be more available, and it doesn't matter age. I think we need to have more slip and slides in yards and backyards across America.
Have you seen the adult slip and slides?
Yes.
Those are a blast. I did one long time ago. Basically, it's a tippy cup game. You get to the end, you got the table, then you got to do it the tippy cup. It's a relay race.
Yes.
Oh, and it becomes an absolute blank show.
I think we need more slip and
fun.
slide in our life this time of the year. Like it's going to be 93 Saturday, 98 Sunday, 97 Monday.
A little warm.
We're third world. We're complaining. All of a sudden it's hot in middle of America.
It's called summer.
We need more adult slip and slide. Just there's things.
I'm with you.
There's things that we genuflect and we let just kids have. Why can't the slip and slide be for the adult as well?
It should be. Absolutely, it should be. And it's if you lost your way of the art of the head first slide and you're in your 40s, well, this is another way to rediscover the head first slide.
People have fire hydrant parties. Why can't we have adult slip and slide parties?
Now you make me think of adults having fire hydrant parties, just hanging out by the fire hydrant after a couple of pops. May not go well.
I'm not sure your lifestyle, but I'm thinking that maybe that's
it could be frowned upon. Yeah. You might be looked at a little bit different.
Midgets look up to me, says on Twitter, would Sip raw dog it down a slip and slide, or is he lubing up? At least we know he'd be shirtless.
Yeah, he'd be shirtless. I think he would appreciate maybe less water.
People appreciate
just to show off toughness.
I left back of my hamstring on a slip and slide once that did not have water on one part.
Oh,
and it's kind of like when you go down a slide.
Yeah,
and you're like, you stop.
Oh, if
you go to Funplex and you join all the kids up there on the big slide.
That should go.
Oh, there were certain days. I remember this is like the third time I think in the last year I've had to bring up the late great Moby Dick water slides that were in Omaha. There was, I think it was the yellow one that was a little more dry than the others. It was a little bumpier, and there are certain days you just knew to avoid that one.
Kudos to
Funplex.
I don't know why y'all here in Omaha, like when you were 14 years old as a boy, that's not where you hung out. I mean, I'd be there all the time, just to see the interaction between 14-year-old boys and girls that I see when I go there. Good thing for Funplex, and I don't go there on a regular basis. I mean,
you're just hanging out at Funplex.
Yeah, look at me, like I'm walking around shirtless. I got a swim shirt on. Is they cordon off the adult area where they have the adult swim up bar? Yeah.
It's like caddy day.
You throw in a swim up bar. I don't care. I don't even care what the rest of the place looks like. If you throw in a pool and a swim up bar, you're good. You're good in my book. Adults love that. Anytime we go out of the country, if we're going to a resort, I need a swim up bar. I don't really care what else is going on. I need a swim up bar.
No.
I'm simple.
They did that. Coming up, Sarah Baker Hansen, Steve Sipple.
Should have said that idea the other
day. And also, how about this? How about this? And this might be a hat tip to David Braun. Oh, I like that. 25th anniversary for 1620 The Zone. We rent out Funplex.
Yep.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter your age.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay.
You get young new listeners, old listeners could all unite.
You mean we didn't need a meeting? We just solved it right here at 7:58 in the morning? Damn.
There we are.
Our other radio stations do remotes out of Funplex.
Yes, they do.
Let's
we already have a tie-in.
Let's buy out Funplex and have a 25th anniversary 1620 The Zone party.
Yeah.
And we'll get the university involved. We'll charge a very small admission. That'll go to NIL.
And then we will go down the street because Warhost Casino will be open by then.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's all coming together.
One quick thing. About a year ago, hat tip because of the job that he did. How many times have you guys wondered what Pat Fitzgerald is up to?
I have.
That hazing scandal is a year ago.
Other than the coach in his son's high school football team.
Yeah. His son is committed to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
He loves himself some Kirk Ferentz.
Is he gonna join the Iowa staff?
But Pat, that story kind of has not gone away, but it's a year later.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find people talking about it. People don't talk about Pat Fitzgerald.
Yep. And you're right. A lot of that, give credit to David Braun, because if that season ended the way that it started and how we thought it would go, it'd still be a huge conversation.
All right. SBH coming up next. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Omaha Whiskey Fest 2024, the largest celebration of whiskey in the region. It'll be taking place on September 28th. And get ready for Whiskey Wednesdays coming to 1620 The Zone and Mornings with Sharp and Handley very, very soon.
All right, it is that time of the month, our bi-weekly chat with Sarah Baker Hansen, our resident foodie, who has most recently been to a Cubs game at Wrigley than yours truly. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Did you and your husband, who is I know Matthew's a diehard Cubs fan, did you eat your way through Wrigley Field inside and out on this particular trip?
Well, I had, I really went with the classic. I had a Chicago dog. So I kind of wanted an Italian beef, but I walked past about, a dozen stands and I couldn't find one. So I just gave up.
I wanted to ask you, if you're in Chicago outside of just Wrigley Field, what you would consider to be the must-have delicacy of Chicago or the flavor of Chicago. Because I know a lot of people would say deep dish pizza, but you just mentioned one, Italian beef. If you can find a good Italian beef, you're not going to get much better.
I love Italian beefs. I honestly really love eating in Chicago. I love Chicago dogs also. I definitely try to indulge in like one or two of the classic Chicago flavors while I'm there. And we were actually there on a family vacation, and my niece, Kate, who is 12, had never had deep dish. So we found our way to Lou Malnati.
Yeah, there you go.
And she had her first taste of deep dish. But before we got to the pizza, she actually put away 7 pieces of garlic bread. So she didn't really make it through much of the pizza.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I was very impressed with her ability to take down garlic bread. So yeah, it was very fun. But yeah, we did a lot of eating, and like you said, we went to a Cubs game, walked around the city. It was a gorgeous weekend. The NASCAR event was going on, so every place was absolutely jam-packed with people. So yeah, it was a fun weekend to be in Chicago.
And by the way, the Cubs have won 3 in a row, 5 of the last 6, and they're within 3.5 of wild card. All right, that's not a Cubs moment.
There you go.
All right, so you talked about
brought to you by Matthew Hansen.
Yes. Okay, so you because of your job and because you like to travel, whether it be in state or around the country, and you've talked about this before, how you like the food options in Chicago, but you've also spent some time in New York. So your favorite city in the United States that's not inside of the borders here that you like in terms of when you go there, food is the number one item?
Oh, I mean, realistically, whatever city I visit, food is almost always the number one item. I would say the only time in recent history I can think of food being the number 2 item is last summer when I went to see Beyonce. Beyonce was number 1, food was number 2 on that trip. But most of the time, food is really my priority. I was just in New York, and I'm going back next month, and I'm really looking forward to that. I love eating in Los Angeles. Matthew and I were in Vegas. I think we talked a little bit about that, but the food scene there has just, exploded, and it's become a really fun city to eat in. So, I don't know. I like different cities for different types of food. But yeah, I would say probably my most favorite city in the domestic U.S. to eat is definitely New York.
Okay, so with New York, because the few times that I've been there, it's usually been either New York style pizza or I've gone the pasta route. I haven't really got into much else of what you would typically get in New York. But is there anything that, is it the pizza? Is it just getting a hot dog? Like what to you, if someone was going to New York for the first time, what would you say the ultimate food experience would have to be for someone?
Oh, man. I think it really depends on what you want to try and realistically, like, what is your budget? Because, if you want to go have a great slice of pizza, I could send you in several directions, or I could also just tell you to go to any, greasy slice place on the corner and get a slice.
Yep.
I've done that, since I first went to New York when I was 17. And now I've discovered, my go-to pizza places that I try to hit at least one of them every time. But, the Michelin star game in New York has become a real a real thing. And that's going to set you back, some serious cash.
Mhm.
So, I mean, for example, last year for Matthew's birthday, he had his 40th birthday during COVID. And so we didn't really get to celebrate in the way we had hoped to. And so I took him to La Bernardin, Eric Repair's seafood restaurant. And it definitely stands as one of the best meals that I have ever had from top to bottom. Food, experience, quality, dining room, service, all of it. So, I think that's one of the reasons I do make food such a priority while I'm traveling, because I think when it comes to doing my restaurant reviews, I'm constantly trying to build this certain, amount of new experiences that I haven't had before. And so that is really where I get into eating out or, having different dining experiences when I'm traveling. I would also say that the, sort of the Asian and sushi in New York is absolutely incredible.
Okay.
And there's lots of experiences to be had there. I would also be remiss if I didn't recommend Omaha native Austin Johnson's restaurant, One White Street in the West Village, which is absolutely fantastic if you haven't been there.
I do know the name. So
yeah,
this is, we know this because you love sushi. I love sushi. Nick does.
Mhm.
This is a really, really good town for sushi. And we have some great owners and operators. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago because this tied into Nebraska football, Sarah, of Nebraska has gone all in on trying to get back into the Samoan community and get that pipeline coming. And you have somebody that comes from the islands all the way to Lincoln, Nebraska, and they're like, "Oh, I can't go to Pizza Hut every day." But it's but it's interesting how the Hawaiian food, whether it be a chain or a mom and pop shop, has started to take off in this area.
Yeah.
Now,
I've noticed that too. I've noticed a couple new places that have opened. I've gotten a couple of texts from friends about a couple of spots, one in particular in Bellevue that's started to take off. And I know the big sort of Hawaiian chain, like restaurants opened out west. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I was talking to a friend the other day about, how as people move to the Midwest from different parts of the world, we really are lucky in that one of the first things that happens is there's, a restaurant that opens or a grocery store that opens or some new experience that we get to have thanks to those, immigrant communities that move to Nebraska. So I feel really lucky that we can try all sorts of different food because of that.
I'm going to throw one at you because a friend of mine is Polynesian, and he introduced me to this, which I thought, I don't know if this is going to be good, but it was fantastic. Now, he did get very excited that Hawaiian Brothers opened up over by 370.
Hawaiian Brothers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I did try that, and it was awesome. But before I tried that, he made chili one night. So we're like, okay, cool. We'll have some chili. Well, they're all putting rice first in the bowl and then putting chili on top of it.
Oh,
it was fantastic. And he said, he goes, we do rice on everything. And so the rice and chili was fantastic. Now, I don't know how common that would be if you're, say, in Hawaii right now, but I just found it fascinating that it's a huge part of any type of Hawaiian dish, because when I went to Hawaiian Brothers, everything is with the rice. It's fantastic. And then, of course, we were talking about this with the fried Spam being a big part of what they offer with part of that delicacy as well.
Yeah, I love the Spam masubi. When we were in Maui, that was one of my favorite things to eat. And I can see the chili with rice. I feel like that would be pretty good. I don't know. It sounds better than Cincinnati chili to me with spaghetti.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I can see it, and I think you guys know me well enough by now to know that I'll try anything once. Yeah. So I would definitely try it.
So did you have a side of fresh pineapple with this Spam?
I definitely ate a lot of fruit when we were in Hawaii, and there was a little market down the street from where we were staying, and they had kind of an area that was like local fruit. And I looked at some of the things I recognized, but some of the things I swear I had never seen before. And one of the things that I tried that I really, really liked and I wish we had is apple bananas, which are sort of like little tiny bananas that have more of like an apple flavor and tartness. and a little bit of a different texture. And I just ate a ton of those. I thought they were so, so good. And Michael Severe actually had those too. And so we really bonded over apple bananas when I got back.
All right. So the sushi, this is going to be a good segue into what I want to ask you next with the sushi part of it. And I know in one of your most recent reviews, talking about memoir and how we've not only have sushi, but we're also looking at pasta. We're talking about cheeseburgers. How does that work when it comes to consistency with the menu?
Yeah, memoir is a really interesting story. I think it's new on 10th Street, right outside of the Old Market or right east of the Old Market, from Flagship Restaurant Group, who of course has been around Omaha for 20 years now, and I think probably if you're my age or older, you can definitely remember, how buzzy it was when, for example, Blue Sushi first opened. I remember that was like such a cool place to go, and of course, they've opened lots of other cool restaurants. Blatt, I think, is a great example of a place that they've opened that's gotten a lot of attention. And so now they've opened Memoir. And basically, the idea of Memoir is that it is, well, number one, they sort of viewed it as their kind of like, quote unquote, 20th anniversary restaurant. And it's meant to tell the story of Flagship Restaurant Group. And so their kind of chef owners wanted to make their idea of what they thought sort of an American grill would be.
Okay.
And so it's based on kind of a variety of their concepts that they have, not just in Omaha, but all across the country now. And none of the dishes are exact replicas. So it's not like, you're sampling, some stuff from Roja, some stuff from Blue, some stuff from Blatt, but it's more inspired by those concepts. So it is very interesting. And I say in my review, which you can read right now on Flatwater Free Press, that, I was a little put off at first by the idea of this, because it's like, does sushi really belong next to pasta and hamburgers? But I talked to the guys from Flagship, and they were basically like, sushi has become very Americanized. And I couldn't really argue with that. Like, I think that's true. I think there are a lot of different varieties of sushi, but certainly one of those varieties, it has been more, westernized or Americanized, if you will. And I tried their sushi, which is one of the most popular things on the menu, and I thought it was very tasty and well executed and interesting. And so, I mean, are there times as a restaurant reviewer when you eat your own words? Like, for sure. But also, so I enjoyed the sushi, but I also thought that the burger was just fantastic. Maybe one of the best new burgers like in the city of Omaha right now.
Wow.
And so I think it's absolutely worth trying. They the other thing that they did that's kind of interesting and different is that they have a charcoal grill. And so a lot of the meats and proteins are actually cooked on charcoal, which very American, kind of inarguably so. And so they have a lot of entrees that kind of incorporate those like smoked meat and charcoal flavors.
Wow. We got some lunch plans.
I'm hungry.
So we've mentioned some local places, and this is a great town that, we support our neighborhood restaurants, and if it's local, we are there with them. But this is also a growing community that has a lot of franchises. And one of the most recent ones is Shaquille O'Neal, who has been very successful across many different platforms. He's got a big chicken restaurant, and they're coming to Omaha. They're scouting out a couple of locations and maybe some additional growth. In your travels, how do people that have franchises that are not in Omaha or Nebraska, how do they see this market when they're trying to decide if like a Big Chicken or a Whataburger or something like that would work in Omaha?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, I don't exactly know how they would choose Omaha, but I would imagine that they would probably take a look at just, the sheer amount of restaurants that are able to be successful in our city. And I'm sure that is a plus in Omaha's category in terms of, getting new places. I know there are certain restaurants that people just always, chain restaurants that people always want to open. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't because of their own goals. But I saw this news about the chicken restaurant yesterday somewhere on social media, and I will admit I did not click on it, so I don't have a lot of intel about Shaq and his chicken restaurant, but I do think it's pretty hilarious that that he has a chicken restaurant. And I have one Shaq related story, which is when Matthew and I went to China about 15, 16 years ago. Shaq was on, he had apparently gotten like a deal in Asia to promote a beer called Harbin, which is, I don't know if it's even distributed in the United States, but literally everywhere we went, train, billboards on the street, signs in the restaurant, everywhere we went, there was Shaq like promoting this Harbin beer. So I don't think like promotional stuff and food stuff. I mean, Shaq's obviously very familiar with this arena, and I'm sure his people know what they're doing. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, you know, celebrity endorsed restaurants are really, you know, kind of a niche in and of themselves.
Yeah.
People go because they like the person who's associated with the restaurant, and whether the food is good, I don't know how much that really has to do with the celebrity.
Yeah,
So
we haven't
it'll
had
be interesting.
We haven't had many of those. Guy has his place over in the casino, but not in this town. We don't have a lot of celebrity driven places.
No, we don't. We're more locally owned here.
And in Chicago, didn't Michael Jordan have multiple locations for his restaurant?
Steakhouse, right?
Yeah.
He still has it. There's still at least one. I saw it. We walked by it.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's more of the, oh, this is Michael Jordan's, I got to check it out. But I mean, when you eat there, it's like, okay, this is fine. It's nothing.
Like the Michael Jordan Steakhouse, right?
Yeah.
No, I've never been there.
It's
but
okay.
I've seen it.
You can do better.
Hey, great,
no doubt.
Great stuff. Welcome back. Appreciate the conversation as always, and the tips on where to go.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
That's Sarah Baker Hansen. Is Ditka's still open
in
Chicago?
At least as of 2021. I was there. We stopped there just for a drink.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now Harry Carey's is still open, and it's still a banger.
But the thing that sucked is now do they have it?
Because you don't like the Cubs. That's why I don't like Harry Carey's.
No. I love
that's what you just said.
We always would post up at Harry Carey's at Midway. Okay. And then they got rid of it. But do they have it at O'Hare still?
I don't know. I'm talking about the OG. I'm talking
I
about
know. The actual restaurant. Yeah. But I always liked going to the Harry Carey's at the airport too. Yes, I've been to the.
You don't get the same experience.
No, it's very, very true. It's very different at the airport.
Ooh, Malnati's at O'Hare.
No, the only good thing at the airport that you can be like, hey, it's basically the same thing is when you go on Garrett's Popcorn. Because it's essentially the same thing. I mean, it's a small, if you go to one of the brick and mortars downtown compared to what you see in the airport, it's the same thing.
Tell me you're not from Omaha without telling me you're not from Omaha when you go, boy, I'd love to go see the standalone Cracky McGee's.
Where's the brick and mortar? Where's Cracky McGee? That's more of a midtown thing, I believe.
I was down in the old market. I couldn't find Cracky McGee's.
That's a great watering hole.
All right, Steve Sipple is still to come. Brian Edwards as well. And what would you put in your pants? That's all to come before we're out of here at 10. It's a very, very pressing question.
Our new game.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, in this case, I'm going to tell you a story. There was something that was involved that was gamey.
Oh, boy.
On 1620 The Zone. All right, our push to bring slip and slides back for adults. For kids, they should be everywhere. I should be able to drive down the streets of Omaha, and every yard should have a slip and slide, and kids should be out playing in the street.
And a skunk.
But next week, make sure you're inside so you can play the college football game. The great photographer, I would say sports photographer, but Brad does so many other
everything,
things.
yeah.
And he's a good dude.
Yes.
You know what? The one thing I didn't know about Brad, I knew about his work. I didn't know like Brad's like 6'6".
Oh, yeah. He'll post you up.
Yeah. He said, I can't imagine going down a slip and slide as an adult. I got sore enough going bowling once a year. People forget, to be honest, that bowling can stress you a little bit physically.
Sure.
Because the back of your hammies.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get the little, and depending on how your follow through is, you got the tabletop follow through, or you're bending at the waist. That can hurt.
You have to stretch.
I know. And it feels weird. I'm like, I got to stretch before bowling, but you get to a certain age, you got to. You want to enjoy
have
it.
to stretch before folding laundry is what you told me.
That is actually true.
You're getting old.
I am.
One thing I didn't drop on Sarah when she was talking about Shaq and her run-in with Shaq. Seems like we've all had a run-in with Shaq. Not like a bad thing, but like,
someone who has.
Our brush with greatness.
Seen him a few times, yes.
People that went to his show at the Royal Grove that didn't get in may not share the same sentiment.
That wasn't his fault.
They're going to have to do like a local 30 for 30 on that blank show.
Well, you can combine that with the basketball court takeover. The Yellow Park takeover and the Shack. I mean, all which happened within a week of each other.
We're trying to make that happen in Omaha. Like we're not doing it publicly, but we're trying to make it privately happen with a YouTuber to come to Omaha. Get the hell out of Lincoln.
This Gene Wilder guy?
Stay out of. Hey, that's Crime Town, man.
Come to Skunk Town.
You can't go safely grocery shopping in Lincoln anymore, but come to Omaha, wide open. Like
safe and smelly.
like the Kansas State offensive line trying to block Terrell Farley.
Nice.
Really, right on the heels of Big 12 Media Days, too. You're bringing up memories like that.
I think it's a good memory.
I think it's one of the best. So
Terrell Farley,
radio guy, at the station where our next guest is going to join us. He still has one of the best pressers of all time, and it was the last time that he ever talked up front.
For a reason?
Oh, no, I thought I've told this story. Okay, so quickly. This is about Terrell Farley. Remember when he blocked the punt against Kansas State?
Yep.
And, T. Farley was...
Dude, understatement.
Yeah, he was... Not a lot of people were built like him, that speed.
Yeah.
But he just kind of went and played football. And he used his athleticism. And somebody on a Tuesday asked him after the K-State game about blocking a punt. And he said, he goes, that hole was so wide open, 2 fat ladies couldn't fit through it. So he said that in a presser. Everybody in the room laughed.
Yeah.
Couple other questions.
Not fat people.
He's done.
Never heard from again.
Chris Anderson makes him go sit up front, and she made him sit down, and he goes, and he was a little bit younger back then.
Sure.
He goes, I want to apologize to all the fat women out there. Last time he ever was featured on a Tuesday. Stephen M. Sipple coming next. All right, it is time for our good friend from 93.7 The Ticket, on3.com. He's everywhere. It is Stephen M. Sipple. Happy 7-Eleven Day.
Oh, 7-Eleven. Good,
Yeah.
good one.
Hey, you know what? It's hot outside. Go get yourself a free Slurpee and tell them Sharpie sent you, and they'll give you one. They'll give you one on the house.
They still have them. They still have them in Omaha. I don't know. Do I see 7-Elevens in Lincoln? I'm not sure I do.
Yeah, I don't think we looked this up. I think the closest 7-Eleven is somewhere around the Kansas City area.
Oh, so not in Omaha.
No, but no, if you want to drive there, you can get a free Slurpee today, courtesy of me.
All right, I'm not going to drive down.
Yeah, there are no 7-Elevens in Omaha.
What's your go-to convenience store there in the lovely city that you live in?
I'm just whatever's nearby. I don't have.
No, come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't have allegiance.
Hey, Mark Whitehead is not listening. You can say you stop or not.
You stop's fine. I lean a little bit now toward Casey's.
Yeah, you look like Team Casey's.
Yeah, because they have those cookie dough cups where they have like little balls.
Oh yeah, little chunks of cookies, like the cookie dough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's killing me. I mean, it's
good though.
It could ultimately lead to my downfall, my complete downfall. I try to keep it to 1 cup a week is what I do.
Now, do you take down the entire cup once you get it, or do you pace yourself throughout the week?
No, that's a good question. I try to eat about half of it and then put the other half in the fridge.
Yeah.
For midnight snack.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got you.
So if I get up, I got to get up a lot because I'm an old guy. And then I just make my way to the fridge and have you take 1 or 2 with swigs of milk, and it's ungodly.
Ooh.
It really helps your night.
How many times a night you have to get up to go pee?
That's a personal question, Gary. I mean, sort of cross the line on that one.
Okay, then I will scale it back. I heard that you're a raw dogger.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I'm very proud of that. I think a better way to put it, a more appropriate way to put it, is I'm a sleeper on a plane. I sleep very well on plane.
Okay, for people that don't know, and I'll let you finish here, but because this is a little bit of a new term, It is basically getting on a flight or a trip, and you're not eating food, you're not watching a movie, you're not doing any of that stuff. So can you raw dog a flight or a trip? And Sip, as a sleeper, appears that you have executed this very well.
Yeah, sometimes I won't even do when they bring around snacks and pop, I'll just sleep through that. And it really doesn't even bother me. In fact, sometimes I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
So Ireland was, I raw dogged it to Ireland and Hawaii. I don't even really think about it. I don't think about it as a big deal because I'll sleep on a 6-hour flight for 4 hours.
How did you raw dog it to Ireland?
Did you take something before you got on the plane?
No, I don't even do that. I don't have to. And then the other part of it is I like to observe, and I don't like being buried in a movie that's usually a movie I'm not even interested in, or buried in like music. I like to observe and listen. So a lot of it's that too.
What's the best observation you've seen on an airplane when you were raw dogging?
It's usually related to like the stewardesses, not in a bad way, just their interaction, the way they comport themselves. It's a lot of it oftentimes comes down to that.
Okay.
But just people watching in general on a plane is pretty interesting.
That is true. Even with earbuds in, you could do that, and it's still very entertaining. Yeah.
Let's now shift to some football.
No.
I know this would be great because I got follow-up questions, but I know your time is limited. How we've seen with the Evan Cooper to John Butler potentially, and just needed to be official, and I think they're being they don't want to jump the gun before they announce something, before something signed, all that stuff. We've talked about, Matt Rule having a plan. But Sip, how do you think this affects Matt Rule, the person, that a guy that has been with him for a long time and is almost like another son to him is no longer going to be on his staff?
Great question.
Well, there's got to be an impact because of what you said. In fact, by way of trying to be somewhat illuminating, if you're looking at that staff, it's Cooper and Satterfield that are really, really confidant to Matt. I would add Satterfield, Marcus, to that conversation. So they are, close. So yeah, it definitely has an impact. But I would say this, I think, and I don't know this, I haven't talked to Matt about it at all. He's on vacation. I think if you're in Matt's shoes, you can't let it have an impact. If it was April 11th, you could, but not July 11th. It's too close to the fact. I mean, it's too close to camp. You can't get derailed you can't get emotional about stuff like that right now. Or maybe you can for a little period, and maybe he did while it was going on a little bit, but that has to take a back seat to moving forward, because you got a good defense and you got a lot of you have a good defense. You have a good coaching staff on that side of the ball, on both sides of the ball, but on defense, they're really good. And you can't let this derail you in any way. So I think you got to take the emotional part out of it. You largely have to do that in his shoes.
Well, and you made me think of, and with Gary's question there too, because I think it's a fantastic question it's at least part of this whole story that we haven't gotten into. The Tony White part of this as well, where you've got a highly respected defensive coordinator who's already been courted by other schools to be a head coach somewhere. People understand having him back is a huge plus for Nebraska, but he didn't have the same type of history with Evan Cooper that Matt Rule had. Good or a bad thing that Tony White also given, I mean, I know it's good because of the type of person and leader that he's shown to be, but as far as him not having that history with Evan Cooper, does that make it easier for Tony White to also be able to help this defense turn the page, move forward, given the time of the season where we're at?
Yeah, I would think so. I do think it would help in that regard. He doesn't have that emotional connection, so it doesn't have a history with him. But it did work last year. I mean, they played pass defense at a level, at least statistically, that Nebraska hadn't played since 2014, since Pelini's defenses. So it worked. But no emotional, not a big emotional connection. I think that that can be helpful. It's still a pain in the you-know-what, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's close to camp. Now there has to be, you bring in Butler, and I imagine he's here. And I want to say, too, because I hear from people that they get anxious about the fact that there's been no announcement. Don't be anxious. There's nothing. He's here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's physically here. My guess is he is.
He was.
But it'll be announced. It's not. There's no snag. There's nothing to worry about. So if you're Tony White, it's an inconvenience. That's the best way that's the most, I don't know, softest way to put it. I'd say it's a pain in the ass, basically. That you gotta get this guy ready. You gotta help. Not that, I mean, Butler's a seasoned pro, 51 years old. He'll learn the defense probably pretty easily, but he does have to learn vernacular, and he does have to get he has to get familiar with personnel quickly, not just personnel in his room, personnel throughout the defense. That's a lot, and it's close. It's right on. And this is a critical season, and you got, there's pressure. This is fascinating. It's a fascinating development, really, to me. How are they going to manage this? It's a lot. It's a lot for John Butler. It's a lot for Tony White. It's a lot for the defensive staff in general, and the head coach has to manage it all.
Hey, I don't know the particulars, but can he spend any time before camp begins on the 31st with his defensive backs?
I think so.
Okay.
They're in OTAs. The kids are around.
Yeah.
I think they got 2 more weeks of OTAs, and you can spend a certain amount of time with them. Like I said, I can't say with 100% certainty that John Butler's here, but I'd be surprised if he's not. I mean, I think you got to get him going fast. He can. but I think a lot of it, Gary's just film. I mean, you're just watching.
Yeah. I'm not like on the field. I'm talking like in a room watching film, talking to guys, getting to know their strengths and weaknesses, and basically say, "Hey, my name's John," and the guy says, "Hey, my name's Tommy." I mean, those kind of things.
Stuff has to happen like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you always got to remember in this conversation that we have attached expectation to that defense, and it shouldn't derail our expectations or their expectations. But it's not an automatic. It came at a very awkward time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's better than Wager. You know, Wager happened, I think, on July 28th, last July 28th.
Yep.
The arrest and all that went down. This is different. It's different because there's 5 starters in the secondary. There's 25 plus guys in that room. There's not a coach that's like, is it Josh Martin that had experience coaching tight ends at SMU and at ASU on a full-time basis. Cooper didn't really have that guy like Josh Martin waiting in the wings. So this was a different situation. If Cooper did have that guy, I don't know who he is. And I would say this about Cooper. Cooper was very aggressive alpha. It was his room. It wasn't anybody else's. So yeah, and all that adds up to challenge.
Sip, I know you wrote about the ability to pivot in this situation. Now, whether it's Bill O'Brien's connection to Matt Rule, Sean Padden, who played for John Butler, whatever the connection is, what does it tell you about getting a guy that was very open on why he left the Buffalo Bills of wanting to run a defense and feeling like he's at his best when he's in charge? What does it tell you about the situation that he's coming into that Matt Rule and Sean Padden and Tony White, whoever, was able to really get him excited about what he could experience in Nebraska and what it could lead to?
Well, I mean, he started the conversation with the fact he wasn't working and he wasn't drawing a paycheck. So Nebraska gave him an opportunity. But I think, everybody knows where that conversation is going. He's a 51-year-old who wants to be a defensive coordinator. And if the defense plays like we expect, and Tony White gets more opportunities, Tony White at some point is going to say, look, I can't just keep turning down jobs, head coaching jobs. If he has opportunities again, which is, it's a very plausible scenario, right? Then I think you have your next defensive coordinator. I don't even think it's a question. I mean, I obviously think Voracek's a good coach. I love Terrence Knight. He's my favorite coach on the staff. But those guys don't have the resume that John Butler has, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Butler, if the secondary plays well, the defense plays well, he'll be in a great position. There's no guarantees. And my guess is that there's no guarantee here from the mouth of Matt Rule, but he'd be in a great position. And that's, in that world, in the coaching world, that's a lot of the game, is just positioning yourself for those types of jobs.
Hey, the people involved on both sides, and I'm talking about 1890. And we know Troy Dannon, when he got here, embraced it, and coaches have embraced it, and they've worn the gear. And we've had 2 things happen this week with 1890. The announcement and the partnership, where a lot of people went, oh, I thought they were the collective. That happened the other day. And then yesterday, what I think is a great idea is the NIL practice. Is there something more significant with 1890 discussion this week than we've already had, knowing how important they are?
Is there something more significant? I don't know what that would be, Gary.
So is this like, we know 1890 is important, but it seems like this has been the week to, okay, let's take the next step where we're going to bring in the normal fan to pay $25 to watch a practice. We're going to start doing more. But when we talk Nebraska athletics, it's almost like in the next breath, 1890 is involved. I don't know. Maybe it was just coinciding with more stuff this week, but it just seems like it might be intentional.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess my answer to your question is it's sort of a long time coming. But there's sort of public acknowledgement, I guess, or that 1890 is Nebraska's collective. If you followed it closely for the past year, you knew that was the case. Now, a lot of people didn't follow it closely, and there was confusion. And people would ask me about, media members would ask me about it, radio shows would ask me about it. Is there a problem? I mean, what's the problem? 1890 is a thriving enterprise that acts responsibly and is incredibly helpful. It's one of the top 25 collectives in the country. And maybe you might even push it a little higher than that. It's like top 20, maybe top 15. They're well-heeled. They're well-organized. They're incredibly fortunate to have the Pede family and to have someone like Matt Davison attached to it. I would always be like, what are we talking? What are the issues that you're trying to make up here? Because there's no issue. Now, some of it was confusion created by the AD intentionally. I don't know why. I mean, I have my theories on why that was the case, but it doesn't matter now. Mm-hmm. 1890 is the enterprise, and it's Nebraska's. What I always say, what I've been saying for a year, is the least of Nebraska's problems is its collective. Yeah. The least of Nebraska's problems would be how it's handling this new world from that standpoint. That's the least of their problems. Some people would try to make it a problem. I would be like, no, they got a lot of other problems, a lot of other challenges besides that. So yeah, I'm glad it's all unfolding. It feels a little late.
What's your expectation for this event? We talked about, I mean, if you were able
Are you going to pay $25 SIP to go?
You're not going to be credentialed?
We're paying 25. Yeah,
okay.
Oh, On 3 is paying money.
Is that Is that a write-off?
I suppose it is. I don't know, but I'm not an accountant. But they, I think it's great. I don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
because Gary and I are older guys. I don't think it's ever happened.
No, they did. It was a free event. Remember in 21 in the spring, because the people had been shut out for COVID. They had a open practice in the spring when Scott was the head coach, but it wasn't you. I think you just reserved a ticket.
Yep.
Okay. So now, paying 25. What is the expectation for the crowd? And I get various answers from people. I mean, Sean Callahan thought 5,000. On the show today, Bill Bush thought it would be closer to 20,000. I'd probably say in between there somewhere, like 10 to 12. But I don't know what to expect.
I think I don't.
We've been talking bigger numbers.
Maybe as you get closer, it gets a little bit larger. I don't know.
I hope so.
Yeah, maybe there's also I might be overlooking the fact that people are like, I ain't paying $25, so that might push some people away. But I love the idea. I think it's a great idea. That's going to grow, and I wouldn't be surprised if publicly you hear this a lot more, because donors and people that have donated to the NIL can go to a practice and it's just kind of their own. But now this is public. I love the idea, Sip. I think this is the start of many things like this.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. The fans deserve. I don't mind saying that. The fans deserve things like this. And I would think there'd be intrigue to go watch Dylan. Right? Just watch Dylan. I mean,
absolutely.
That's enough for me.
Yeah.
To watch this highly ranked quarterback who does have a lot of talent. Just see how he comports himself on August 3rd.
Yep.
I mean, that's enough for me.
All right. Have a good weekend. I appreciate the conversation today, the laughter and the insight.
Well, I always do too. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
That's Stephen M. Sip,
a raw dogger.
No, this is a thing that has started.
Because if you look up raw dogging right now, you're getting two, and I mean very different definitions.
Make sure you're in incognito mode.
So in the 6 o'clock hour, we're talking about the other definition. In the almost over in the 8 o'clock hour,
the family.
The
portion.
raw dogging is the flights and the trips. So I asked both of you guys and everybody else out there, how long can you go without anything to occupy your time? Because essentially what it is, Sip hops on a flight to Ireland. And that was not a short flight. And all you do is either you sit there, you face forward, you just stare, or you sleep, but you don't eat, you don't listen to music, you don't do any of that stuff.
Maybe 25 minutes.
3 minutes
Tops.
and 27 seconds before my AirPods come out and be like, "F this."
Yeah, I mean, because
People watch.
usually I'm
Just like at the pool.
I'm
same
like
thing.
I'm like you, Jimmy. Usually before
You
we
hate
even
people?
before we even take off, they're in my ear because
Glad you don't even hide that. That's
Oh, I don't hide
fantastic.
anything.
I
I'm an
tune it
open
all
book.
out.
I will say exactly what I feel.
I know.
we
He
know.
doesn't work here anymore.
I honestly usually can't even go before we take off.
Yeah.
But if I was challenged to, I think I would cave in. It's probably once we get to our cruising altitude.
Man, I might have been really generous saying 40 to 50 earlier. And I was just doing the math because if you get to there, you get $1 million.
Like $1 million, yeah.
Man, I
That
think
should be the push, though.
I can be larger than 15,000 people.
I do too.
yeah.
I would expect baseline. I would expect at least 25.
I would go as a normal fan.
Yeah.
Why not?
You should.
It's rare. It's access. And again, this
It
is where
helps.
you know exactly. You know where your money's going to. You know exactly where your money's going to. This isn't it goes to the athletic department. I don't really know how it's going to impact it that much.
Or those
They're
that can't
bigger
get to a
donors
game
than I am.
this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's the rarity of seeing a practice, not a spring game either. It's
Others
the
will start
rarity of
doing
seeing
this.
a practice. Yeah. And
practice.
see, and Gary, I like
Practice.
that you're throwing 40,000 gets you $1 million. Shouldn't that be the push? Maybe not necessarily by the
They will have more
athletic
than
department,
40,000.
but shouldn't that be the push of, hey, if we can get 40,000 to see this practice, folks, we're going to get $1 million into the NIL right there.
This didn't
Let's
take
get 40,000.
This didn't take very long. Ed says, "Where's Buffett?"
I'm surprised it took this long.
People should be upset at Warren Buffett today if you're a Nebraska fan.
Should buy out a bunch of tickets.
Oregon has Phil Knight.
Yeah.
Why isn't Warren Buffett stepping up? He has more money than Phil Knight.
Will Phil Knight light a fire under Warren Buffett's ass?
I understand that Warren's
Wow,
home
that's a
today.
visual.
Warren is home today, so if you're going to drive by his house on Farnham, just give him a little honk. Give him a little GBR.
Where's the money?
Are you coming to Funplex for our birthday party?
Just the way you said that.
For our birthday. It
I
sounded very innocent.
This is a great
For our birthday
Hey,
party.
run this up the flagpole. Your wife is
Cocaine Bear started in this studio.
It did.
Your
It did.
wife is in charge of promotions here. 1620 The Zone, and this is our 25th anniversary, so we're celebrating this year. We're going to have a birthday party for our listeners at Funplex. Would that be one of the biggest gong shows ever?
Yep.
I used to think,
Especially if you get some
So-
margaritas going.
We
Todd
could even
and-
do part of the show at the swim up bar.
hey, so Todd and Tyler,
Yes.
who you used to work with,
Yep.
used to have, until things happen, they used to have a...
The golf scramble?
No,
Well, the golf scramble.
no, not the golf scramble.
Okay, that was also.
They used to also do the pregnant pageant.
Okay,
and
yes,
it-
I've heard stories of this one.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And that was, I got invited one time and I went and I was like, gosh, even this is bad for me. I think it would be the ultimate gong show if we had a 1620 The Zone birthday party at Funplex.
At Funplex. Yep. Where they do cordon off the adults.
Well,
But you can bring your kids too.
I think because we're celebrating our 25th anniversary, you have to be 25 or older.
Oh, okay, I like that. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
All right, Joey's just in.
Joe, by the way.
Oh, yes, I heard.
he
I don't like
He
that.
rebranded himself.
Yeah.
He is now Joe.
All right. So on that heels, when we come back, just think about this during the break and then listen in. Last time you put a lot of stuff in your pants because somebody in Hong Kong did. Jokes write themselves, my
Getting
friends.
pandas again.
This is
Last
gotta be
hour is upcoming on 1620 The Zone. All right, last hour, Brian Edwards, about 40 minutes away on Mornings with Sharp and Handley, and Jimmy as well. And I've not been able to find anybody, but so I'm ready to add to this list. Is Colorado football in 2024 and even in 2023 the worst team in America that serious teams are excited to beat?
Yep.
So Colorado's 4-8, but it seems like everybody wants to beat Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Most 4-8 teams, like you're like, beat Illinois, beat Maryland, Now I know that Maryland has been better than that. Give me another bad team. Beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Vanderbilt, you feel bad for them.
Is Colorado the worst team in America that serious teams want to beat?
Yeah. Okay. They bring it on themselves.
Sports
now, there was a time when Nebraska was, and again, we haven't seen a bowl game since 2016, so there's still a little bit of that until you are.
I know where you're going here.
But there was a time that every Big Ten team, even though they had Nebraska down, they wanted to kick their dog.
No, I'll go even way back. I'm glad you brought that up because that just popped my head. But gosh, they were on the heels. Like Colorado, Nebraska's been to a bowl game more recently in Colorado. So
true.
This is a little bit of a different comparison. The 2002 season, which we all remember, those god-awful uniforms.
It always starts with the uniforms.
But that's where my mind goes
people forget in the 2002 year.
Mine just goes the fact they played 14 games that year.
Well, yeah, because they played Arizona State in the special game.
Mm-hmm.
The Eddie Robinson Classic to kick off the season.
Yep.
People forget Nebraska started that year 3-0. And then before you knew it, they were out of the month of September and they were 3-2 because got kicked at Penn State and then lost at Iowa State. That was not pretty. But I remember they lost at Stillwater. That was a year where Nebraska wasn't very good and people enjoyed beating Nebraska. One of my memories of that season, which was so weird, is because I was the sideline reporter. Lost at Oklahoma State, and we started the pregame show like at 5 a.m.
11 a.m. kickoff.
It was, and Nebraska lost by a field goal.
Yeah,
They were telling everybody on the Nebraska sideline, hey, it's going to get ugly. They're going to storm the field. They're going to tear down the goalposts, and you have a ways to go to get to your locker room. And they were telling you about, at the end of the game, and you're like, oh, that's not a good sign. Where the locker rooms, I don't know if they're still there. The locker rooms were in Stillwater as you had to walk past the one end zone, then up a ramp. And it was right next to Gallagher-Iba. Coach Solich and I stood there and watched as they were playing, ironically, an Oklahoma Sooner fan, Toby Keith's I Want to Be a Cowboy.
Yeah.
They just played it over and over, and the whole field was packed full of pokes, and they tore down the goalposts. I just remember Frank and I were standing next to each other, and I was like, this is awkward. Because the locker room was packed, and he couldn't walk in. Here's the head coach watching after they got beat. But people love beating Nebraska in 2002. Like, they got really, really excited. But Nebraska was on the heels of playing for the national championship the year before, so it wasn't the same as Colorado's 4-8. But people get excited to beat Colorado. Tell me how many teams you get excited that were 4-8 the previous year to beat.
Other than, and they're that reason, because they don't carry themselves like a 4-8 team. That's the biggest point of this entire exercise, is for a team that is 4-8. They got the swag like they're a team that is at least 8-4.
It's an amazing branding that has gone on in Boulder. A celebrity coach and a 4-8 program that gets more attention than any 4-8 program has ever gotten in their life.
How much on social media yesterday did you see before Deion Sanders even hit the podium? People from all over covering different teams of the Big 12 saying, Coach Prime is here. Coach Prime is here. There's Shador. They're walking in. You're capturing that. You're putting that on video. You're tweeting images of them because there is that off factor. And we talked about this with September 7th. When you see Colorado out on the field, whether you're watching pregame or you see them finally take the field, everyone's eyes, at least initially, are going to go to the sideline where Deion is.
And I have one thing I've not understood is how come he has not used that to recruit off campus in his time in Boulder.
I don't know.
Because he is a dude.
Yeah,
he is a guy. Everybody knows who he is. He's everywhere.
He exudes that presence that is undeniable. And even the biggest haters of Deion Sanders cannot deny that. His presence is stop and must see. That's how it is. And like I said earlier, that ain't changing. It becomes less of a story, but that ain't changing.
Here's Andrew on the 42 Degree The Source hotline. Good morning, Andrew.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
In the day, I'm dating myself here a little bit, but Colorado, the Salinesi days, I really, really hated Colorado. And I did not like their coach, McCarthy, much. But I've got to say, Deion Sanders has brought it to another level.
Yeah.
He is just an ass.
Okay.
I think he thinks a great coach, but he really hasn't proven anything on a big stage yet to justify his remarks or his actions.
Your sentiment is shared by many across the landscape, Andrew.
But remember the Salinesi days? Oh, man, those were good.
Andrew, thanks for the call. I do not remember the Salinesi days.
it
All I
baiting?
remember is the chant of Sal is dead, go Big Red. But yeah, you first started hating Colorado because you hated the head coach, Bill McCartney.
Yep.
Okay, then it was like, man, he got some dudes here.
Promise
I don't
himself.
like Chris Hudson. I don't like Rashawn Salam. I don't like, of course,
Greg Beaker.
Alfred.
Speaking of that 90 game where the chant was Sal is dead, go Big Red, and the banner is Darian Hagan, Eric Bieniemy.
Yep. JJ Flanagan.
Jesus, I don't know. I've just popped in my head. I don't know if I have, because the 90 game is one of those games when you're up 12-0 going to the fourth quarter that will stick with you.
Yeah, I remember every part of that.
I mean, from the Kenny Walker start to seeing Bieniemy and Hagan run around the field. I don't know if I can put up. Let's go down the memory lane when Nebraska plays UCLA and Bieniemy is available to the media. And they go, "Hey, tell us about the 90 game." I can't do that. I like EB. He helped me get some championships.
Yeah.
Okay, but I
the world's
can't.
colliding there.
That UCLA week, I can't.
Yeah.
Hey, you're coming back to Lincoln. Tell us about that 90. No, shut your face. That's not a good game.
At what point
remember.
did you realize that you owned the fourth quarter?
Did he play in the 92 game, or was he gone by then?
He would have been gone by then. Yeah.
Well, you can still ask him if you watched it on TV.
Yeah, friggin' Darian Hagan and Eric Bieniemy are two of the most hated people in that stadium because of the crap in the fourth quarter. Hey, good on. They scored 27 unanswered points, but they're running around with their helmets on. It's raining. It's just a miserable day.
I was so pissy because
like friggin' T.O.'s washed up. Just drop the program. Hey, Danny Nee, what do you have coming up this winter?
That was one of the most miserable games. It's obviously with what happened, but you're right. It was drizzling the entire time.
No, it wasn't, Nick.
I mean, it rained at one point,
but it was a downpour.
But
they started senior festivities, and the turf. Remember, the turf was dark.
Yep,
because there was so much water on it.
It had puddles. It did, but even when it would taper off, it was always a constant drizzle, and it was just so uncomfortable. And then the game too. You're like, all right, 12-0. They're not doing anything. We'll be fine. And then that happened. It was very, 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 very.
We haven't done this experiment
memorable.
with the 90 game. I'm sorry, I got to do this to myself. I like it's not mutilation.
Oh,
that would be very.
masochist?
Wait till I start
You're
talking
a
about the
sadist.
snakes.
You're a sadist, is what you're saying? Or is it a masochist? I don't
masochist.
know. You're a masochist.
The midday to afternoon crossover, they were doing this where they went to the headlines on Husker Max to see columns. There isn't a ton available. Huskers swamped in the final quarter.
Yeah, that's very appropriate.
I mean, here's the. Okay, I'm gonna say it, and then we're gonna move on.
You did bring up one of the coolest things about that game, though. The Kenny Walker.
They needed the rain.
Like that was awesome.
Hey, Mike Petco sacking Darian Hagan and about breaking his limbs was pretty cool. Mickey was 2 of 9, 69 yards passing. Johnny Mitchell caught. Oh, Johnny Mitchell. Yeah, it was a touchdown pass, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, 46-yard touchdown pass.
Yep.
But Bieniemy, 4 touchdown runs in the fourth quarter. The longest was 5 yards.
Yeah.
And that was to put the game away with
a
minute 31
I felt like they lived on that side of the field at first and goal. I mean, that's just, it always just seemed like that's where they're, it was almost like they just gave them the ball like it was college overtime rules where they were just starting at the opponent's 25. It would just, that's how that fourth quarter, that's how I remember it.
Let me see here.
You guys have triggered some memories on the stream.
Well, I'm trying to. So I clicked on the World Herald one from there. What did the Boulder Daily Camera say?
Elway probable tomorrow.
Oh, they said Well done,
Vance Johnson.
Well done.
Three amigos.
You want to do it here, or you want to do it when we come back about the man that was caught smuggling 100 snakes in his trousers?
I think we need more than 5 minutes for that one.
Topic alert: man caught smuggling 100 snakes in his trousers, or do wins dictate success?
I feel like you could
go
probably
snakes.
You could combine both.
It's always
of them,
snakes
too.
in the pants.
It's July,
Nick. It's always snakes in the pants.
We did have tequila down butt cracks yesterday, so
and video that was
which thank you Fremont Fred for sending us more of a video. Thank God a lot of it was blurred out.
I was probably at a place where you couldn't click on that.
By the way, I was watching when Fremont Fred sent that, and my wife was next. She goes, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you a story."
Let me tell you what we're doing.
And you were taking Reese there the other morning?
Yeah. So, well, she didn't say that, but she goes, "Why are you guys talking about it on the radio?" I go, "It's July, baby."
Why not? Why aren't we?
Yeah, come on.
Hey, just if they start winning, we won't talk about this
Yeah,
stuff.
like that's what I should have said. Hon, this is why Nebraska
I
needs
blame
to win.
Frost. One final thing on
It's
Deion.
not Frost. It's his fault.
One final thing on Deion. There was a point yesterday in some of the sound I heard, just a sliver, that he made a comment, and it almost led me to believe that he questions whether he can have success at CU. Just a little bit. I got in the back of the brain that I might bring it up later into the season. All right, 9:15. Brian Edwards is coming up here in about 30 minutes. If you missed any of the show today,
where the hell you been?
Shame on you.
People do not like Deion. If you missed any of the which brothers and sisters out there, that game every day that gets closer, and I'm Mr. The UTEP game is a trap game for Nebraska. Just get 1-0.
Yeah.
That becomes more important to winning that game. I used to think it was Colorado, and then I went to Nebraska, and now I'm getting stronger on Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a shitty big red overreaction to do.
It's not wrong.
Yep. Sorry. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. get this off my chest because there's another part of that game in 1990.
Just keep going, man.
So, the old, before Husker Vision ever existed.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a game as a kid I went to. So I'm like, everything is visual. Yes.
Just getting a lot of comments right now.
You know the scoreboard in the north, which was just, it had the advertisement at the top.
Yeah.
It's at First Federal.
It was an old school. Yeah, it had the message. It had the.
Oh yeah.
It was like, okay, but they would update scores.
Mm-hmm.
And that same day that Nebraska and Colorado played in '90, Georgia Tech and Virginia was number 1 in the country. They were playing at the same time
on CBS,
and so they put up on the scoreboard that Georgia Tech had upset Virginia.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
38.
And there was a reaction. Yep, I do.
And then a
that.
couple of minutes later is the Mickey Joseph to Johnny Mitchell touchdown pass.
It was like a euphoric moment.
And Nebraska's up 12-0.
Yep. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah. Okay.
Take advantage.
Yep. Boy, how quickly that season derailed.
Yeah.
A
little bit.
Now let's talk about the man that got caught smuggling 100 snakes in his trousers. It's in Hong Kong. I don't know if that's a thing over there, but a man tried to smuggle more than 100 live snakes into mainland China by stuffing them in his trousers.
Mm-hmm.
The unnamed traveler, like they're going to redact his name, was stopped after passing through the nothing to declare gate at the crossing between Hong Kong and a city of Shenzhen.
Mm-hmm.
Under inspection, he had 104 snakes in 6 canvas drawstring bags inside his trousers. Each bag was found to contain living snakes in all kinds of shapes, sizes, and colors.
Yep.
They have shared the pictures.
Yeah. The red stripy ones just freak me out.
Now, this crossing point is apparently a popular place to smuggle in snakes. Last year, a woman was stopped trying to smuggle in 5 snakes hidden inside her bra. China is one of the world's biggest animal trafficking hubs, and authorities have been cracking down on the shady trade in recent years. Now, neither one of us have been to Hong Kong, I don't believe.
No, I never have.
I don't know if you put stuff in your pants before to steal things.
Never to.
No puka shell necklaces at Claire's?
No, because I found one in the outfield of Buck Belzer when we played there, and I just used it as my own. It could have fell off of, who knows, maybe Shane Comin was out there playing long toss. I don't know, but it was mine. I've done that. I've smuggled in candy in my pants for movies when I was younger, which I don't think is very uncommon. I think a lot of people did that. Or if you had something you could put it in that was nondescript. But yes, when I was younger, I think at one point I had maybe a box of Sour Patch Kids in my pants.
Haven't we like all, like before we learned our lesson, we all like stole something?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't gone to, the Food King, like, and pulled off the Animal House.
I stole baseball
where,
cards.
that was a sorority, fraternity.
Instead of stealing it, you're just eating all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I've done that at a Dillon's, but that's a different story.
My backside will never forget this moment. When I was growing up in Des Moines, there was a place called Hickory Farms.
Oh, yeah.
And they would have candy. Well, I didn't know, and I was probably about 5 or 6, and I thought it was free because they had it in the big barrels.
Absolutely, I would think
so. I thought it was free, so I just into the pants. Yeah, and then I got home, and my mom noticed I was eating it, and she was like, "Where did you get that?" I was like, "At the store."
The hospitality.
She's
bucket.
like, "Did you pay for it?" And I'm like, "No, it was right there."
Like, Mom, if I paid for it, you would have paid for it.
So, rest in peace, Mom. I got to tell this story. She took me back to the store. Like, I had to take part of my allowance, and we went back to the store, and I had to stand there and go, "I stole this candy. Here's 35 cents." That was embarrassing, Mom. I can't believe you did that to me.
I bet.
No, it was not good on my.
Clearly, you never forgot it, and I bet you learned your lesson.
Yeah, I learned my lesson.
See,
until I stole from the government when I was in 7th grade.
Wait, what?
Misunderstanding.
Damn, this show's had everything today.
You were paying taxes in 7th grade?
No, okay.
I got to know about this.
Statute of limitations is over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Urbandale, they have Lions Park. It's still there.
Okay.
And they had a cheese and bread giveaway for government cheese and government bread.
Oh, no.
Well, I didn't know. Like, clearly, thankfully, Mom and Dad, we were not eligible. I swear, I've already done it today. That I didn't know. Because my friends and I were playing in the park.
Yeah.
And we're like, where are all those people there for?
Like, oh, picnic.
So they were standing outside of like the clubhouse, and it was like a line.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's go see. So
you're curious.
Stayed in line.
You got in line and you got your food.
Moved up to the front, and they gave you like a box of Velveeta and some bread. And I could have gotten eggs, but I was like,
where am I going to put this?
I don't know what to do with those. So they handed me the cheese and the bread.
Like the big block, like you get those big Velveeta
it was like
blocks.
in a cardboard box.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just
Make
lined
good
up.
queso.
You lined up and you went through the line, and the very nice lady was like, thinking that probably I was with the family that was in front of me.
Sure, yeah.
She handed it to me, and I was like, oh, okay.
Here's the Rotel that goes with it.
Yeah.
So, so I didn't know.
Here's some chips.
I didn't know what the deal was. And again,
you got home.
I got home, and the question started of, where did you get that? And I was like,
Mom, look, I went grocery shopping.
And I was super honest. Like, I was telling the truth. I was like, okay, so we were playing baseball in the park, and over by the swimming pool, by the clubhouse, there were a bunch of people lined up. And so we were just curious and wanted to see. And it was like a line, and we thought they were giving away like something like really cool, like free ice cream or something like that. So we got in line, and they gave me this. And she was like, do you know what this is? This is not for you.
Clearly I don't.
And I'm like, it's bread and cheese.
Yeah, I mean.
And I think I may have said, we got grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese for a month. Hell yeah.
You were providing for the family.
So guess what happened?
You had to go and return it?
Oh, yeah. And that was even worse than going back to Hickory Farms and giving them 35 cents.
Yeah, this is
I had to go back.
Yeah, it's a walk of shame, my man.
I had to go back, and I had to hand back over the government cheese and bread. I didn't know I was in seventh grade.
It is an honest mistake. I do support you on that. They should have been checking
identification. I should have had like a pass or a card or something. I just got in line, and they gave me the government cheese and bread. I didn't know any better. I was in seventh grade.
I would not have known what government cheese or bread would be at that age either. So it is an honest mistake. I support you on that. I just love that your mom made you do the walk of shame on that one too.
Friggin'.
You were just trying to bring dinner for the family.
I should have run away from home after
I'm glad you didn't put the cheese in your pants.
No.
That was good.
No, I was husky back then, so there wasn't a lot that could fit in the pants. Just saying.
Oh, my God.
It did not. The cheese did not look very good. The bread actually looked pretty good, though.
Yeah.
Like, it was solid bread.
Like Texas toast?
I don't know, man.
It's like the artisan bread?
I don't know. It looked like Wonder Bread, but it had like a generic label on it.
Yeah, it just said bread.
But the bread was like a big brick. I was so excited walking home with bread and cheese, and I had no idea. I thought it was like just a giveaway. You know, like you go to the ballpark and you get like a plastic batting helmet.
I would have too.
I went to the clubhouse in Lions Park and got free bread.
Have you ever seen a cheese and bread giveaway?
I didn't know any better.
I mean, Bill Veck was alive back then.
Again,
understandable though, because you'd only lived a very small part of your life. I get it. Even 21-year-old Gary would be like, "Oh yeah, I don't think I'm supposed to be here."
I'd have done the same.
But seventh grade, you know,
I learned a lesson. Then we had a discussion
12-year-old
about some people need bread and cheese, and then I had follow-up questions. I'm like, did they ever give them anything to drink?
Good question.
And then I got, and that's the same. That's a phrase I use. I remember this to this day. My mom goes, "They're not them, they're we."
Oh, okay. That's also
Jesus. How unfortunate I get to get birthed into this family.
But you know what?
I used to say
you're
that
more
every
aware
Christmas.
now. You're more aware now. Those good life lessons.
Corey on the stream says, "Hey, animal smugglers in China, stop it. Some animals should have been eaten. You're going to kill us all."
Yeah. Now, you can see, I've seen this in movies.
Oh, I thought it was going to be real life about something you're putting in your pants.
Bloodsport.
No. Well, snakes are a thing as far as
general,
eating.
yes.
But
On a
eating.
plane?
Oh, yeah. Especially when you go to Tijuana, wake up in a random tent the next morning. Never had snake before.
It's not bad.
Hangover 2 was on the other day.
Do you know they're doing another one?
Why?
I don't know. They should have never done 3.
You guys said they're making an American Pie 5.
Yeah. By the way, there's going to be American. It's at least
American
in
funeral
discussion. No, American retirement.
I mean, that's how the arc eventually ends.
Well, who's retiring? They're our age. Yeah. Like, who's retiring among said
Eugene
group?
Levy.
He should have been retired by now. I don't know. Come on. Whoa. Tiger Shark Diver says Nick has a python in his pants. Thanks, man. That's take that as a compliment.
This segment probably is not going where I thought it would go. John says they don't even check ID to vote. They aren't going to check for free cheese and bread.
We're really going to all spectrums here.
I think I really did try and spin this. I'm like, well, they didn't ask for my piece of paper.
Well, sure.
They didn't. That was.
Then you would have known something was
I
up,
think I might have caught a flaw in the system.
You think?
Yeah.
30 years ago. That I didn't have to be ID'd. I didn't have to get ID'd. And also that they would just hand over free bread and cheese to a teenager.
It's like the samples at the grocery store. I would have taken the same damn thing. Be like, man, these things are getting bigger.
Hey, can we get back to the snakes real quick? I just have a question.
You can pull us out of here.
Social
media is just blowing up.
I just have a question. So they were in canvas bags. Okay, because like the pictures I saw, they look like they're in Ziploc bags. These snakes...
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, and at least more than a dozen look like they could be poisonous. Are you secure with just that between your goods and a plastic bag that a snake ain't going to bite through that?
I have a great response to that, but I'm a little bit in timeout for this hour.
Yeah,
so
you are.
I gotta pick and choose my spots.
But there are 2 other shows this afternoon you can ask that question to and see where it goes.
Those things are gnarly. No, hell no. Hell no. I just want to know what possesses you. I'm assuming you get paid handsomely to do
it has
this.
to be buco bucks.
Yeah,
because I don't think
so.
I don't think just for the thrill of it, you put 100 snakes in your pants.
No, for the thrill of it.
Well, like you get
20% off or half off
think
deal.
about it. Think about this.
It's like sitting on a vibrating phone.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
It was in college in 2004.
Why did you bring that up?
I'm just throwing stuff out there. Seeing if anything sticks.
Oh, this class just got a lot more interesting.
Be it on a washing machine.
I would think that there would be movement from the snakes.
Yeah.
So you'd be
You're like,
feeling
woo,
Yeah.
woo. It's kind of tickles.
Yeah.
Until you feel like, wait, is that a fang?
No, puberty.
I'm all of a sudden my leg's gone numb.
Now, for people that are wondering that want to try this, like going through Epley later today, there are strict biosecurity and disease control laws that forbid people from bringing in non-native species without permission in the country.
Let that be a lesson to everyone.
Yeah.
So, ask your whoever's in charge, can I bring in
I guess it's not customs.
Like yesterday was National Kitten Day. That would have been a day to, do that.
Smuggling kittens in your pants?
No.
Native Nebraska kittens.
No.
I can see where this could go. I don't think it needs to go there, but
from an earlier comment on the show, I know you guys are holding your breath. Tim says the closest 7-Eleven to Omaha is in a bad neighborhood in Kansas City. He goes,
keep going.
He goes, don't need a free Slurpee today.
Not worth it.
Overland Park is not a bad neighborhood.
Well, there's really
is it off of Paseo?
I don't know if you guys. So
is it off of Paseo or Troost?
7-Eleven's kind of disappeared around here. I had 7-Eleven in my hometown.
The last one I remember was over by Miller North. There was one down Pacific Street.
But it is 7-Eleven Day, so celebrate in kind.
117th and Quivira.
There was on Fort Myers Beach, there was a really, as you would think, a beach community 7-Eleven where you got all walks of life.
Sure.
Was wiped out by the most recent hurricane. That's the last 7-Eleven I remember going to. Because they've been overtaken.
Yeah, I mean...
they couldn't compete with the pump and pantries.
That's true.
And then Buc-ee's came along.
Buc-ee's, yep.
Now we got Casey's, we got Quick Trip, we got Come and Go.
God, who owns the state more than Casey's? Is it FNBO? Is it just FNBO and Casey's that just they own the
1890?
State? Like you come into the state and it says, "Welcome to Nebraska." Brought to you by FNBO and Casey's.
Might be. Well, Quick Trip. Ooh. Quick Trip is trying to maneuver their way in the market.
State naming rights. You could be onto something.
In this
like
power.
It should be.
Remember we talked about doing the food tour of the convenience stores in the area, and the power ranking of the convenience stores do we like Mega Saver is involved in this, right? So they would be under consideration.
Yeah, they're blowing up right now, and they got cheap gas.
Now, what about the Hy-Vee convenience store? Does that get involved in the power rankings of convenience stores? Because they're not bad.
No,
not bad. Always clean.
Once again, a Joey
always
question.
very friendly.
And if you like the Hy-Vee food options that you get at the grocery store, well, they usually have an offshoot of that at the gas station too. So you're getting good food.
They have a good breakfast going on right now.
Yeah.
Wait, do they still give us money?
I don't know. That's a good question.
We'll find out.
But I mean, Joe's part of it.
Oh yeah. So we're technically NRG owns Hy-Vee,
formerly known as Joey Colbert. Joe.
I would also throw another one in here. They're not like a franchise, but what about Cubbies?
Yeah, Cubbies is up there. Cubbies is, and Cubbies.
I think Cubbies after dark has taken a step back. I don't hear as much debauchery that goes on at Cubbies as it used to.
Is that part of what makes?
But Cubbies has got good food, by the way. If you stop in there downtown, they got great food, and they're always doing like a clothing drive.
Oh, you're talking about the downtown Cubbies debauchery. Yeah.
I was like, Channel 7 is always like, hey, take your winter coats to Cubbies to donate them. And I'm like, of all the places in town,
they're a hub for everything.
But the food at Cubbies is really good.
They had it was like this egg roll type breakfast thing once. This was a while back that I remember having there, and I don't even know what the hell they called it, but it was good. It was very, very good. Now it was late too, so I mean, it might have been really, really bad, but it tasted good at that point.
See,
11 o'clock at night.
We're able to turn this story into a discussion about convenience stores in Omaha.
Brought it back local. Kids take notes.
Yep. Talked about the state.
The 7-Eleven thing, if you are listening outside of the area, the 7-Eleven thing is real. You can go to 7-Eleven, get a Slurpee.
Ray?
But I'm not sure if they, you got to make it a suicide Slurpee. You got to all the different flavors.
All flavors, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have to make it for you.
Oh, I thought you meant putting pills in it.
I don't think on 7-Eleven day where you get the free Slurpee, you can walk in with the big, huge mugs that people have now.
Yeah.
That you see, if I leave here and go to what's the closest convenience store, Quick Trip.
Yep.
Somebody might be getting ready for work or midday, and they'll bring in that gigantic 128 ounce mug.
Yeah.
The diabetic's delight.
I've noticed that there are more signs about how much you can put in there.
There should be.
What?
I mean, that's, what you pay for the large cup.
But it's 128 ounces.
That's what I mean.
It hasn't been washed in days.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a them problem.
They're like, oh, it's still in the car. I'm sure it's fine.
What's floating around?
Okay, real quick.
Some new stuff to
real
it.
quick hot take on the Slurpee. Slush puppy grater. Give me the slush puppy over the Slurpee any day.
What was slush puppy? Was it Circle K?
Circle
Kmart?
K. Quick Stop used to have them. Quick Shop used to have them.
I remember going to a Circle K in 1989.
We never had Circle
George
K's
Carlin
here.
showed up.
But yeah, slush puppies because they had the bubblegum flavor. It was really good.
Remember when Kmart existed?
Yes. Yeah, they had slush puppies.
They had slush puppies.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did. Ices, yeah.
Man, those were the days.
They had a really randomly good sub too at Kmart. Yeah, not kidding. They had a deli.
I could see. Oh yes, I do remember
yes,
this.
Yeah, they had a deli. Yeah. They had a randomly good sub.
Late 80s.
I swear to you.
At Kmart?
Early 90s?
Kmart and Millard, where I also saw a guy in a standoff with police officers.
You can see that at Hy-Vee just over here. Or no, not Hy-Vee, Walmart on 72nd.
I'm just thinking, I'm South Millard, man.
Do you wonder what your dad was doing that day?
You know what? What's funny about that, though?
It was?
No, it wasn't. But my brother worked at Kmart at that time. I swear to you. I won't do that anymore.
Brian Edwards is going to join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy at 1620 The Zone. All right, as we inch closer to the start of football season, let's talk some football. Their good friend, the senior handicapper from Vegas Insider, Brian Edwards, joins us now. Good morning, B.
Good morning, gentlemen. What's happening?
We got lots going on. So we're going to start here with this. Convenience stores, because 7-Eleven is more popular in Florida than it is in this part of the country. It is a free Slurpee day if you're interested, if you live by a 7-Eleven.
I do not live by a 7-Eleven.
Now, but have of your part of Florida, have Wawas made their way there yet?
No, but I've heard a lot about them. Now we've got the Buc-ee's, and I think like Pensacola, like an hour away. But I haven't been to a Buc-ee's yet or a Wawa.
Oh, when you go to a Buc-ee's, I can't wait for your review because it will be a life-changing experience for you.
You'll come out of there with a hoodie.
I got a T-shirt.
Okay. Okay.
That might be the best reaction yet. It's okay.
Brian, are you still there? Oh, Brian has already left to go to the Buc-ee's in Pensacola. Let's stick in the South. Let's talk some SEC, and let's talk about Kentucky. So before Mark Stoops got there, weren't so good. Since Mark Stoops has gone there, the expectation is to go to a bowl game every single year. Now, Mark Stoops' name keeps coming up for other jobs like Texas A&M, but he's staying in Lexington. Their win total this year is only 6.5. The schedule is kind of interesting with some easy games, and then they'll drop in a trip to the Swamp where they have won 2 of the last 3, but historically they haven't been great. There's a late game against Texas. How do you see this season unfolding for Kentucky with what I think is a low win total?
I think it's all about Brock Vandegrift, and no shame in sitting behind 2-time Natty winner Stetson Bennett, and then Carson Beck is probably going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. So, but we just haven't seen much of him. Now, if you just search him on Twitter and watch some highlight clips. I mean, he's got a great arm. He throws a tight spiral. I love Kentucky's receivers. Barryon Brown is a preseason All-American as a all-purpose return guy, but he's a hell of a receiver as well. And I think Dane Key is one of the more underrated wide receivers in the SEC. He absolutely torched the Gators as a true freshman 2 years ago. And they got Jamori Macklin out of the portal, who was first-team All-AAC last year when he had over 1,000 receiving yards. So Vandegrift has got some weapons. The O-line's going to be better. Phil Steele's national unit rankings have the O-line at number 17, the D-line at number 9, the linebackers at number 13. So I think Kentucky's going to be good. Now, they got 10 starters back on defense, 8 on offense. They only lost 23 Letterman, which is, when you go through your Phil Steele mag in this, day and age, the portal, only losing 23 Letterman, that's a low number. But I think the schedule, there's some clear wins and some clear losses. I've got them with wins over Southern Miss, South Carolina, and Ohio, and Vanderbilt, all at home, and Murray State, and Louisville, which they're only -1 or pick them in games of the year against Louisville, but they've won 5 in a row, both straight up and ATS in the in-state rivalry. Got them losing at home to Georgia, losing at Ole Miss, losing at Tennessee when Tennessee has 2 weeks to prepare and Kentucky doesn't, and losing at Texas. So win total 6.5, like you said, Gary. And I think you're looking at them 6-4 coming down to at Florida and Auburn at home, which I think are, pretty much toss-up games. If you think they're going to win, get a split there, then you'll get the over. But I kind of think they'll lose at Florida, and then I think the Auburn is, a toss-up. So, I think it's a great number at 6.5, and there's, very little juice either way. But it's a pass for me. All that said, and now it's a pass.
Well, okay. Well, Texas A&M, their number I think is interesting given the fact that Jimbo Fisher never exceeded 8 wins in his 6 years, and you got an 8.5 win total. They do get Missouri. They've got Notre Dame on the schedule as well. Texas A&M is fascinating because also with the departure of Jimbo Fisher, you had the exodus of a lot of what they had there too. Mike Elko seemingly has his hands full, but is that number, in your opinion, a little high?
I think it is, and I love Elko. What he did at Duke was, spectacular. I like Connor Wegman. Excuse me, if he can stay healthy. I mean, he's got a 16-2 TDI and T ratio, but he just hadn't been able. It was mostly late freshman year, and then got hurt late September last year. But you look at the schedule. First off, it's impossible to really handicap Notre Dame without knowing Riley Leonard's status because he had surgery on his ankle in the spring. But even if he's able to play, I kind of lean A&M there. I've got them losing at Florida, though. I've got them losing at home to Missouri, where they are a 4-point favorite in that game. But Missouri's got 2 weeks to prepare, and A&M will be playing its sixth game in 6 weeks and off the rivalry game against Arkansas. I think LSU and Auburn and A&M is a 2-point favorite in both of those. I think those are toss-ups, and they're plus 4 or 5, depending on the book, against Texas. Who knows in that one, renewing that bitter rivalry for the first time since 2011. But so all in all, I got them 6-3 with 3 swing games. Swing games being Notre Dame, Auburn, and LSU. But I lean A&M in the Notre Dame game. But you're looking at LSU at home and at Auburn, and they would have to sweep those to get over. So I'm a strong lean to the under. I haven't bet it yet, but I'm probably going to bet it. Not one of my bigger bets, but probably going to bet the under 8.5 on A&M.
That's a great opener in Kyle Field between Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Before I ask you about LSU, and their win total in a couple of books is 9, but for the most part across the board it's 9.5. And their head coach is one of those guys who has had an opportunity, was really good at Notre Dame, got off to a good start at LSU, but there'll be expectations this year. Brian Kelly and maybe you have a couple of guys. What coaches currently in college football do you think need a title to validate that they're a really good coach?
Good question. Yeah, definitely Brian Kelly. Norvell.
Okay. Let me give you. I'll give you a couple, and you can say yay or nay. Lincoln Riley.
Yes. Oh, that's the best one right there. Him and Brian Kelly are the best ones.
What about Lane Kiffin?
Well, I mean, look, what he's done at Ole Miss has been fantastic, and what he's going to do at Florida is going to be even more fantastic. That's where he'll get his title. So, yes, on Lane, but not if he stays at Ole Miss. I think what he's done at Ole Miss has been fantastic, and no, he doesn't need a national title at Ole Miss to validate anything because that's a tall and monumental task to make happen. At Florida, though, yeah, I will say yes, and yes, it'll happen in the next 4 years.
I see what you did there. All right, let's talk about LSU because the schedule, who they avoid and who they get at Death Valley, man, that's not bad for old Brian Kelly this year, but the win total is 9.5. Where should we go?
Man, I just don't trust this defense after watching it last year, and you got to think they're going to take a step back offensively, losing 3 first-round talents with Neighbors, Brian Thomas, and Jaden Daniels. But they're going to be good, and like you said, they get a lot of tough games at home, including Ole Miss, including Bama, including Oklahoma. I'm probably going to go to the USC game because I'm going to be in Vegas celebrating my 50th birthday that weekend. They've lost 4 straight season openers, but surely they'll take care of USC. Talk about 2 bad defenses. South Carolina could be tricky because that's going to be Nussmeier's first career road start, but I think they probably get that one. I mean, they should start 5-0, and then they've got 2 weeks to prepare for Ole Miss when Ole Miss does not have 2 weeks to prepare. But at Arkansas could be tricky. They just, they never have an easy time in Arkansas, and at A&M is going to be tricky. And, they just got a lot of swing games. But I think they beat Oklahoma, Vandy. But, I'm going to lean to the under, but FanDuel's got it at 9.5 under minus 160. I don't lay minus 160 prices on a 4-month bet. But I'm definitely an under lean, and it's because I don't trust this defense. So we'll see.
Before I let you go to UFC out in Denver, are you looking at any action with this one? As I'm assuming you are.
Yes. Now, I haven't done a deep dive on it, but Drew Dober I like him. -1 is pretty much pick 'em at most books against John Silva. And Dober, 12-6 in his last 18, but all 6 of the losses are to top 10 guys. No shame in any of those. And I'm going to go under 1.5 rounds at a -108 price. So his opponent, Silva, 15 career fights, 9 have ended in round 1. He's got 13 wins, 10 KOs, 2 subs. Out of Dober's 27 wins, 14 KOs, 6 subs. So I think we get a quick finish from either guy, but I think it'll be Dober. So Dober and under 1.5 rounds.
Oh, this is an interesting card. The women's flyweight bout isn't bad. But I like.
I wish it was Rose in Macy. That was going to be a barn burner. I like Rose in a parlay.
Okay.
But I just can't trust Rose to get the finish. So I don't know. I mean, maybe parlay her with Dober. But again, I got to watch weigh-ins and stuff. So I haven't done a real deep dive on the card, but I do like Rose in a parlay. And, if you've got a lot of legs to it and it's your last one, you could hedge if you wanted to ensure profits. It's the last fight on the card. But, yeah, that's all I got right now.
Hey, it's almost here. 3 weeks from tonight, we're watching preseason football in the NFL.
You'll be watching preseason football.
Hey, have a great weekend, my friend.
Y'all as well, man. Appreciate it.
It's Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider.
Some of the best reactions ever from Brian Edwards.
Why did you stand up? That's your team. You're like, hell yeah, I'll be watching Caleb Williams play.
Well, yeah, I mean, I will, but I get it. It's the Hall of Fame game, too, so you don't really want to get much into that stuff. The other part is with his reaction to Bucky's. Wait, tell him about the hoodie. Oh,
I didn't get a hoodie, but I got a T-shirt.
I don't know that the couple of times I've been to Bucky's, I'm like, I'm going to get some gear. Now,
you're not Connor Happer, though.
Connor rocks the T-shirt.
Yep.
I'm more into I'm going to the buck nuts or the brisket sandwich.
Beaver nuggets they were overrated, but the other stuff is great.
What was the place that had the really good sub, too?
Subway?
Publix?
Yes, that's the one. The pub sub. Yes. Okay.
Publix is more than just a sub shop. Publix is an experience as a grocery store.
I do like Publix.
Publix, by the way, also encountered somebody putting stuff in their pants.
I'm sure.
Where did Jameis hide the crab legs?
The crab legs. Under a shirt, at least.
But there was some pantage.
No, I'm sure it went through the waistline, too. I'm sure it went down to the waistline.
He said something about below the waistline.
That was old Jameis.
That saved me today. All right. Crossover is coming up next. Quite an interesting show today.
Yes.
Interesting. Fun.
We'll see if we get to do it tomorrow. If we do, we'll see you in 20 hours. For Nick, for Jimmy, I'm Gary. All the conversation today, including our raw dogging with Steve Sipple.
Yep.
That is all up on the radio replay page. It can be found at 1620thezone.com. Crossover is next.